Chapter 48-54. The four statues looked simple and unadorned. It was impossible to tell what material they were made of. Around the four statues, there were a few figures sitting cross-legged. There were around 100 of them. The clothes these figures wore were very different from the clothes they wore today. They looked very ancient and were very similar to the extreme Yin corpses. Lu Ming and the others became nervous. They circulated their energy and prepared for a big battle. Who knew if these were extreme Yin corpses? As expected, in the next moment, the 100 or so figures moved. They all turned their heads and looked at Lu Ming and the others. In the beginning, these people's eyes were no different from normal humans. But soon, these people's eyes were covered by a boundless darkness, like two deep wells. Then, a dense black aura spread out from their bodies. Extreme Yin corpses. These figures were also turned into extreme Yin corpses. In the next moment, the 100 or so extreme Yin corpses roared and charged at Lu Ming and the others. Their sharp claws tore through the air, creating a terrifying whistle as they tore through space. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Qiu Yu and the others immediately took out large amounts of blue firestone powder or long needles or shuttles cut from blue firestone and threw them out. The blue firestone powder enveloped all the extreme Yin corpses. Then, the blue firestone long needles or shuttles hit the extreme Yin corpses. Many of the extreme Yin corpses burned with blue flames. The blue flames and black aura clashed, causing these extreme Yin corpses to roar and be greatly affected. But there were a few extreme Yin corpses that were not affected. They quickly suppressed the blue flames and continued to attack Lu Ming and the others. They are comparable to the Lord of Heaven. Lu Ming and the others were shocked. There were a total of 8 extreme Yin corpses that were comparable to the Lord of Heaven. This was extremely terrifying. There were only 100 or so extreme Yin corpses and 8 of them were comparable to the Lord of Heaven. The ratio was ridiculously high. These extreme Yin corpses were definitely extraordinary existences when they were alive. Lu Ming and the rest were suspicious. Was this Purple Heaven Grotto Heaven? Perhaps even this mountain range possessed Origin Realm extreme Yin corpses. However, the Purple Heaven Cave was also within the scope of the Great Tribulation of the Origins? The extreme Yin corpses that were comparable to reciprocity experts? They were all in deep slumber. No time to think? Lu Ming and the others attacked with all their might, attacking the absolute Yin corpses. Swoosh! Lu Ming brandished the War God Spear and stabbed out more than 10 times in a row. The 2 extreme Yin corpses that were comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven were stopped. Bone Devil, Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and Qiu. It also stopped the remaining 6 extreme Yin corpses that were comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven and the other powerful extreme Yin corpses. Their divine weapons? Was there a blue firestone attached to it? Could it easily break through the extreme Yin corpse's defense? Against the absolute Yin corpse? They had a huge advantage. As for Dandan, Bubbles, Tang Jun, Myriad God, and Ling Yue were in the middle, constantly shooting out blue firestones to support Lu Ming and the others. Pooh. After a while, only 8 extreme Yin corpses that were comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven were left. But these extreme Yin corpses? They had to constantly resist the blue flames of the blue firestones? They consumed a lot of energy, and the black gas on the 8 extreme Yin corpses became thinner and thinner. Their battle strength also became weaker. In the end, they were all defeated by Lu Ming and the others. The last extreme Yin corpse was split into 8 pieces by the Bone Devil and was completely destroyed. Phew! Everyone let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, most of the people here were shattered by the bone palm. If they were all turned into extreme Yin corpses, we would all be dead, Dandan muttered. Lu Ming and the others were speechless. Although these words were disrespectful to the ancestors, it was the truth. These 4 statues seemed to be extraordinary. Previously, the absolute Yin corpses were actually obediently sitting around them, Xian Yanqing said. Lu Ming and the others also looked at the 4 statues. Lu Ming was secretly surprised to see a statue of a 9-clawed dragon here. These 4 statues were obviously left behind from the previous era. There was actually a 9-clawed dragon in the previous era's Eldritch continent. No, there are some differences. The dragon horns are different. Lu Ming suddenly noticed something different. The dragon body looked similar, and it also had 9 claws. However, the dragon horns were very different from the divine dragons in the current universe. Because the dragon horns of these statues were forked. There were 2 dragon horns, and each dragon horn had 9 forks. However, the dragon horns of the current divine dragons did not have any forks. Looks like the dragon race also exists in the Eldritch continent. Perhaps the dragon race in the current universe is the bloodline of the spirit race from the previous era. Lu Ming thought in his heart, and then looked at the 2 human statues. The 2 human statues looked like a man and a woman. They looked very young, only in their 20s. The man was very handsome, and the woman was extremely beautiful. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt that the 2 statues seemed to have moved. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't help but take a step back. When he looked again, he found that the 2 statues were still there, motionless. Was it an illusion? I looked at this divine dragon. It seemed to have moved just now. Did you see it? Dandan asked doubtfully, looking at Lu Ming and the others. I looked at the statue just now and found that it moved. However, when I took a step back, I found that it didn't move again. Strange. Wuxia said. He was looking at the tall and sturdy statue. I was also looking at the statue. It moved just now. Guimo said. He and Wuxia were looking at the same statue. Then, Xian Yanqing, Tang Jun, and Ling Yue also spoke. They were looking at the human statues and found that they had also moved. Lu Ming was sure that this wasn't an illusion, but something that really happened. Otherwise, it was impossible for everyone to have such a feeling. I'll continue observing. Help me see if these 2 statues have moved, Lu Ming said. Then he stepped forward and observed the 2 human statues. Sure enough, in Lu Ming's eyes, the 2 statues moved. They actually flew up and danced in the air, as if they were using some kind of offensive method. Lu Ming took a few steps back. When he looked carefully, he found that the statues were still standing there, not moving at all. Did the statues move just now? Lu Ming asked. No, they haven't moved at all. Dandan, Xian Yanqing, and the others all answered in the same way. It seems that the movement wasn't really movement. It was just our consciousness being guided. Perhaps it was moving in our consciousness. Guimo speculated. This is very likely a huge opportunity. These statues can evolve some kind of offensive method. It's mysterious and unfathomable. Perhaps it's beneficial to us. Lu Ming said. Just looking at it for a while, Lu Ming felt that he had benefited a lot. The offensive method that the statues had evolved was mysterious and unfathomable. It had thousands of changes and contained endless profundity. Then they began to experiment. Lu Ming realized that when he looked at the human statue or the divine dragon statue, he could feel that the statues were moving. In the end, no matter how carefully he looked at the burly statue, there was no reaction. Chapter 4855. The others were also different. Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, Tang Jun. Only when looking at the 2 human statues could they feel that the statues were moving, but when looking at the other 2 statues, they didn't feel anything at all. Dandan and Bubbles only felt something when looking at the dragon statue. The other 3 statues didn't have any abnormalities. As for the myriad god and bone demon, they were looking at the tall and sturdy statue. They could see that the statue was moving, but they didn't feel anything when looking at the 2 human and dragon statues. As for Chiu, no matter what statue it was looking at, it didn't have any reaction. The strange thing was that Ling Yue only had a reaction to the 2 human statues. Lu Ming speculated that this was related to bloodline. Lu Ming had the bloodline of both humans and dragons in his body, so he had a reaction to the human and dragon statues. The others also had the same principle. The bloodline in their bodies corresponded to the statues. On the other hand, Ling Yue, who was an elf, actually only had a reaction to the human statues. Lu Ming speculated that the elves were related to the human race. Perhaps it was because of the reproduction of the human race's bloodline. I'll protect you guys. Try it and see what you get. Bone Demon said. I'll protect you guys too. In any case, I don't have any reaction to any statue. Qiu also said. Lu Ming and the others nodded. They first let Bone Demon and Qiu protect them while they carefully observed the statues to see if there was any reaction. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, Ling Yue, Tang Jun, Qiu, Bubbles, and Myriad God approached the statues. Then, they sat cross-legged and stared at the statues seriously. Suddenly, in Lu Ming's eyes, 3 of the statues moved. The 2 human statues stepped in the air and waved their arms. Their figures were also constantly changing their positions. That divine dragon? It was also moving? The dragon's body twisted, as if it contained thousands of changes. Lu Ming was shocked. He discovered that the 3 statues? They were all evolving some kind of secret technique? No, perhaps it wasn't called a secret technique, but something similar. But it had thousands of changes? In every move? It seemed to contain endless mysteries. Every single movement? It seemed to contain dozens of offensive techniques. At this moment, the archaic god stone in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness glowed. On the surface, countless patterns appeared, seemingly resonating with the movements of the 3 statues. Wonderful, simply wonderful. I feel that the level of profoundness far surpasses the 3,000 ancient secret arts that I comprehended. Will I be able to comprehend the 3,000th ancient secret technique from it? Lu Ming pondered. His eyes were shining. How many years had he been trapped by the 3,000th ancient secret technique? He hadn't made any breakthroughs. He had only managed to make some headway after entering this place, but he still had no idea how long it would take for him to fully comprehend it. But what did he find? The mysterious technique that the 3 statues had created was even more powerful than the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. It contained the profound mysteries of the universe. Just by looking at it for a while, Lu Ming seemed to have learned a lot. Perhaps he could use the 3 statues to comprehend the 3,000th ancient secret skill. Dangers were often accompanied by opportunities. Perhaps this was his opportunity. Immediately, Lu Ming calmed down and started comprehending without any distractions. He absorbed what was useful to him from the evolution of the 3 statues. Indeed, in just a few days, Lu Ming gained a lot. He had a much clearer direction towards the 3,000th ancient secret skill. With a direction, it was only a matter of time before he comprehended it. As time passed, the 3,000th ancient secret skill became clearer in Lu Ming's mind. A month later, Lu Ming already had an outline of the 3,000th ancient mystic skill in his heart. The others seemed to have gained a lot as well. They were immersed in their cultivation without any distractions. Over the past month, apart from the cracks around the mountain becoming bigger and the occasional deep rumbling from underground, there were no other abnormalities. The Bone Demon felt an itch in his heart. Qiu, help protect us. I'll go and comprehend it too. If anything happens, wake us up immediately. The Bone Demon said to Qiu. Then he went to the burly statue and joined in his comprehension. Time flew, and half a year passed in the blink of an eye. In this half a year, the others woke up from their comprehension one after another. For example, Dandan, Bubbles, Ling Yue, Wan Shen, and Qiu Yu were the first to wake up. Then came the Bone Demon, Xian Yanqing, and Tang Jun. Lu Ming was the last. On this day, a powerful aura suddenly erupted from Lu Ming's body. Dense taboo energy surged out and covered his entire body. There were tens of thousands of points of light all over his body, looking like tens of thousands of stars. Lu Ming, he broke through. Dandan said in shock. No, he didn't break through. His cultivation is still at the 8th level of the Divine Master Realm, but his strength seems to have increased by a lot. Tang Jun said, how terrifying. It's taboo energy. His taboo energy has undergone a huge change. Even I find it terrifying. The Bone Demon's voice sounded. The 2 balls of soul fire in his eye sockets jumped, filled with shock. After more than an hour, Lu Ming's aura finally calmed down. Lu Ming opened his eyes. I did it. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with surprise. He had successfully comprehended the 3,000th ancient secret technique. It had turned into a secret technique rune and merged with his cells. My taboo energy seems to have undergone a huge change. Lu Ming carefully sensed the taboo energy in his body. When he had successfully comprehended the 3000th ancient secret technique, he could clearly feel that the taboo energy had undergone a huge change. It was as if it had undergone a qualitative change. It had become denser and more condensed than before, and its power was even more terrifying. It was as if it had gone from a low-level energy to a high-level energy. Boom! Lu Ming casually waved his hand, and a huge explosion occurred in the void, turning it into a ball of chaos. As expected, the power of a casual attack is very shocking. It's much stronger than before. I also feel that the heaven-breaking style and the desolate style have undergone a huge change. Also, what is this feeling? It seems to have touched upon the origin? The more Lu Ming thought about it, the more excited he became. After successfully comprehending the 3000th ancient secret technique, he felt as if an earth-shattering change had occurred. Whether it was the taboo energy or the secret technique, they had all undergone a qualitative change. Moreover, he had a feeling that he had come into contact with an even more terrifying secret technique. It seemed to be a Genesis technique. Yes, Lu Ming estimated that it was a terrifying secret technique that could only be comprehended at the origin realm. In other words, it was a Genesis technique. Although it wasn't all there was to it. He had comprehended it all because his cultivation level was still low, but he already had a direction. He yearned for the power of Genesis techniques. The Yi Immortal's battle prowess was so terrifying because of Genesis techniques. Lu Ming, why are you standing there and smiling like an idiot? Danden's face suddenly appeared in front of Lu Ming, looking at him curiously. Cough cough, nothing. Lu Ming smiled awkwardly. It turned out that he had unknowingly smiled. In the eyes of others, he was standing there and smiling like an idiot. Chapter 4856. Lu Ming swept his gaze around and found that Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon and the others were looking at him curiously. I've gained a lot this time. What about you guys? You've ended your comprehension so early. What did you guys gain? Lu Ming changed the topic. In truth, he was also very curious about what the others had gained. I've gained a lot this time. My understanding of formations has deepened, and I have a deeper understanding of the various secret techniques I've mastered in the past. Their power has increased greatly. Most importantly, I've faintly touched upon an incomparably powerful secret technique. When I communicated with Guo and the others, it's very likely to be a Genesis technique. Danden was the first to speak. Danden, you've comprehended a Genesis technique? Lu Ming hurriedly asked. No, not yet. I just have an outline. Danden said. I'm about the same. The power of my other secret techniques has skyrocketed, and I've also touched upon the direction of Genesis techniques. Bubbles said. Autumn Moon, Ling Yue and Wan Shen spoke one after another. Their gains were about the same as Danden and Bubbles. What the profound statue! Lu Ming was secretly shocked. He had only sat in front of the statue for half a year, but he had gained so much. This harvest could only be described as astonishing. Generally speaking, Genesis techniques could only be comprehended when one broke through to the origin realm and completely grasped the origin energy. With the origin energy as the foundation, one could comprehend Genesis techniques. It was practically impossible for one to comprehend a Genesis technique at the Divine Master stage. This was because without a foundation and without even grasping the origin energy, what could one use to comprehend Genesis techniques? One must know that many origin realm existences had yet to comprehend Genesis techniques. From this, one could see how difficult it was to comprehend Genesis techniques. Needless to say, in the Divine Master realm, even comprehending a direction or an outline was an inconceivable matter. Danden, Bubbles, Autumn Moon, Wan Shen, and Ling Yue had only comprehended in front of the statue for half a year, but they had already gained so much. It could only be described as heaven-defying. Little Qing, what about you guys? What did you gain? Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing, Tang Jun, and Guo. The three of them were different from Qiu Yu and the others. They had all reached reciprocity in the past, so their gains would definitely be different. Lu Ming, I estimate that I will be able to use Genesis techniques once my cultivation reaches the peak Divine Master level. Xian Yanqing said with a smile. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Normally speaking, only those who had reached reciprocity could use Genesis techniques. The Yi Immortal was a special case. Before Yi Immortal had reincarnated, his cultivation level was too high. He was much higher than Xian Yanqing and Tang Jun in their past lives. That was why he could use Genesis techniques at the Divine Master stage. But that kind of person was extremely rare. In any case, Lu Ming had only met one person, the Yi Immortal. Being able to use a Genesis technique at the peak Divine Lord level was already an inconceivable feat. Evidently, Xian Yanqing had gained a lot. One could imagine that once Xian Yanqing broke through to the peak Divine Lord level and was able to use Genesis techniques, his battle strength would increase by an astonishing amount. It's about the same for me. Once my cultivation reaches the peak Divine Lord level, I will be able to use Genesis techniques. Not only that, but my comprehension of other secret techniques will also increase greatly. Tang Jun said, Haha, I can use Genesis techniques now. Gu Mo laughed heartily. Great! Lu Ming was overjoyed. He had really gained a lot this time. Gu Mo's battle strength would definitely skyrocket if he could use Genesis techniques. Coupled with his incomparably powerful defense, he might be able to contend against Guangqian Ambassador. Will my battle strength be able to contend against Guangqian Ambassador? Lu Ming pondered. He was very much looking forward to it. Before he comprehended the 3000th ancient secret technique, his battle strength would not be weaker than the strongest Lord of Heaven if he unleashed his full strength. Now that he had comprehended the 3000th ancient secret technique, his taboo power had undergone a qualitative change, and his battle strength would definitely soar. Would he be able to contend against Guangqian Ambassador? Would he be able to contend against the 9th layer Divine Lord Yi Immortal? Lu Ming did not know because he had not tried. It's a pity that this statue is too strange. After carefully comprehending it once, it won't work anymore. Dandan sighed. It won't work anymore? Lu Ming was surprised. Seeing the others nod, it was obvious that they had all tried. Lu Ming also tried to approach the statue. As Dandan and the others had said, the statue did not react at all. It seems that each person can only seriously comprehend it once. Lu Ming sighed. He had wanted to continue comprehending it and completely comprehend the Genesis techniques, but it seemed impossible. However, his harvest this time was already great enough. Rumble. At this moment, a series of violent rumbles were heard, and the mountain continued to tremble. It seems that this mountain range is about to collapse. Lu Ming frowned. Let's go out and see how far it has progressed. Dandan said. When they arrived outside the palace, they saw that there were several cracks around the mountain range that extended all the way to the mountain range. Some of the mountains had cracked, and runes had appeared on the mountains. Many of the runes had been torn apart, and some formations had also collapsed. The deeper parts of the mountain range were still fine, but there was a huge crack on the mountain peak where many formations had been torn apart. I estimate that the formations on this mountain peak will be torn apart in at most half a year, Dandan said. Dandan. The Primordial Light clan is still guarding outside. They're like ghosts that won't go away. Wan Shun said unhappily. Lu Ming and the others frowned because they realized that the number of Primordial Light clan members outside the mountain had increased. There were more than 1,000 of them. It seemed that all the Primordial Light clan members around the ancient city had been transferred here. Not only do they want to kill us, but they also want the treasures in this Chi Meridian. Naturally, they won't leave so easily. The only thing we can do is increase our strength as soon as possible. I suggest that we give the primordial crystals and the 9 sky jade ginseng to Dandan, Bubbles, Yue, and Tang Jun, Lu Ming said. Give it to us. Lu Ming, don't you need the primordial crystals more to break through? Ling Yue immediately shook her head, wanting to give the primordial crystals to Lu Ming. Lu Ming's cultivation was at the 8th level of the Divine Master Realm. Once he broke through to the 9th level of the Divine Master Realm, his battle strength would increase tremendously. Lu Ming shook his head and said, if I want to break through to the 9th level of the Divine Master Realm, I'll need at least 5 billion primordial crystals. The primordial crystals and divine herbs are far from enough. Rather than giving them to me, I'd rather give them to you. Only when you break through can our joint attack formation last longer. Lu Ming explained. He had thought about this point a long time ago. He needed too many primordial crystals. The primordial crystals they had obtained before were far from enough. However, giving them to Dandan, Ling Yue, and the others was enough for each of them to break through by at least one level. Ling Yue, Bubbles, and Tang Jun were all at the 7th level of the Divine Master Realm. Dandan was at the 6th level of the Divine Master Realm. They didn't need many primordial crystals to break through. As for Wanshen, he was at the 8th level of the Divine Master Realm, the same level as Lu Ming. The power he controlled was no small matter. Even if he didn't need as many primordial crystals as Lu Ming to break through to the 9th level of the Divine Master Realm, the number was still shocking. End of chapter. Chapter 4857. Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, Bone Demon, and the others also agreed to Lu Ming's suggestion. In the end, Ling Yue, Tang Jun, Dandan, and Bubbles were unable to persuade Lu Ming, so they could only agree. They also knew in their hearts that what Lu Ming said made sense. The stronger their average strength was, the closer they were, the stronger the combined attack formation would be, and the longer it would last. Their overall strength would still be very strong. Immediately, they returned to the hall and arrived in front of the 4 statues. Then, Lu Ming waved his hand, and a huge prehistoric crystal vein appeared. The transparent rocks were inlaid with densely packed prehistoric crystals. Lu Ming and the others worked together and began to excavate the prehistoric crystals. There were simply too many prehistoric crystals. Even with the 10 of them working together and not eating, drinking, or sleeping, it still took them half a month to dig out all the prehistoric crystals. After a quick count, there were 1.2 billion of them. 1.2 billion prehistoric crystals. This number was already more than the number in the Heavenly Palace's treasury. In addition, there were also 9 huge sky jade ginseng. An ordinary sky jade ginseng was only a foot long, but these 9 sky jade ginseng were actually 3 meters long, like 3 small trees. Its volume was 1,000 times that of an ordinary sky jade ginseng, and the energy essence it contained had reached 1,000 times that of an ordinary sky jade ginseng. Lu Ming and the others estimated that the energy contained in a single sky jade ginseng was equivalent to 50 million prehistoric crystals. 9 sky jade ginseng was equivalent to more than 400 million prehistoric crystals. Unfortunately, even if all of these were added together, it was still far from enough for Lu Ming. However, it was enough for Dandan, Ling Yue, Bubbles, and Tang Jun. They were all peerless geniuses, and the power they controlled was extremely powerful. The energy they needed to break through was also much more than ordinary people. However, their cultivation was still low. Ling Yue, Tang Jun, and Bubbles were all at the 7th level of the Divine Master Realm. Even Lu Ming only needed around 600 million prehistoric crystals to break through from the 7th level of the Divine Master Realm to the 8th level of the Divine Master Realm. As for Ling Yue, Tang Jun, and Bubbles, they were even less. They only needed about 2 to 300 million to break through. 2 to 300 million per person would add up to more than 1 billion. Dandan's cultivation was even lower. He was only at the 6th level of the Divine Master Realm, so he needed even less energy. Let's leave these 9 sky jade ginsengs for now. These desolation crystals should be enough for us to break through. Ling Yue pondered for a moment, but still gave the 9 heaven jade ginseng to Lu Ming. Alright, I'll plant it first. Lu Ming nodded. I'll set up a formation first. It can increase the speed at which we refine the great desolate crystal. Dandan said and then began to set up the formation. This formation was called the Great Heavenly Origin Refining Formation, and it was obtained by Dandan from the Myriad Transformations ruins. It was capable of greatly increasing the speed of refining primeval crystals or divine medicines. A few days later, a formation enveloped the area. Afterward, Ling Yue, Tang Jun, Dandan, and Bubbles sat down cross-legged and began to refine the great desolate crystal with all their might. Ling Yue, Dandan, and Bubbles had condensed their origin seeds back then, and after so many years of comprehension, they had a clear direction. As long as they had enough resources, they could constantly break through. As for Tang Jun, there was no need to mention him. In his previous life, he had been at the origin realm. His comprehension and direction of cultivation were extremely clear. Similarly, with enough resources, he could also break through quickly. Lu Ming, Bone Demon, Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and the others were not idle either. They all comprehended secret techniques and consolidated their previous comprehensions. Dandan broke through the fastest. He only needed tens of millions of desolate crystals to break through from the 6th level of the Divine Master Realm to the 7th level. With the help of the Great Heavenly Origin Refining Formation, he only needed 7 days to successfully break through, reaching the 7th level of the Divine Master Realm in one go. Afterward, after consolidating his foundation, he continued to refine the Great Desolate Crystal and began to break through to the 8th level of the Divine Master Realm. Around 3 months later, Ling Yue, Bubbles, Tang Jun, and Dandan broke through one after another, reaching the 8th level of the Divine Master Realm. Lu Ming was secretly amazed. The Great Heavenly Ripple Origin Formation was truly profound. It allowed them to refine the Great Desolate Crystal several dozen times faster. The 4 of them had all reached the 8th level of the Divine Master Realm, and the 120 million desolate crystals had basically been consumed. At this moment, the 10 of them were Bone Demon and Qiuqiu, both peak Divine Masters. Xian Yanqing and Autumn Moon were 9th level Divine Masters. Lu Ming, Wan Shen, Ling Yue, Tang Jun, Dandan, and Bubbles were all 8th level Divine Masters. Their cultivations were rather close, so they attempted to lay down a joint attack formation. As expected, they discovered that the joint attack formation's power had increased by quite a bit. Moreover, it could last for several times longer than before. Without a doubt, their overall strength had increased by quite a bit. However, at this moment, the tremors from the ground were becoming more and more intense. A huge crack had appeared on the mountain peak, almost tearing it apart. If not for the formation on the mountain peak, it would have already been torn apart. Even so, it wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. Many of the formations on the mountain peak had been damaged. In about 2 or 3 months, those formations would be completely destroyed. Dandan, it's time for us to make some arrangements. Lu Ming said to Dandan. Leave it to me. I can use the damaged formations on the mountain peak and the remaining runes here to lay down a killing formation. If the primordial light race attacks us, we'll definitely make them suffer. Dandan sneered. They left the palace and walked down the mountain. They arrived at the edge of the formation and observed it for a while. Then, Lu Ming and the others left to find a secret place to hide. Dandan used a formation to conceal himself before starting to lay down a formation. The primordial light race didn't notice any of this. Look over there. There are so many people. It's the primordial light race. Suddenly, Bubbles exclaimed and looked into the distance. Lu Ming and the group also discovered that there were streams of lights flying toward them at high speed from afar. They were clearly the primordial light race. There were about 1,000 of them. They weren't the ones led by 9th Young Lord because they had been surrounding the mountain peak without moving. The other primordial light race had arrived. Lu Ming and the others' hearts sank. The primordial light race's numbers had increased greatly. The pressure on them had increased. At the foot of the mountain peak, 9th Young Lord and the others naturally noticed this as well. The 8th Young Lord and the others have arrived. A battle envoy beside 9th Young Lord said in a low voice. Soon, the primordial light race arrived. 8th Elder Brother, why are you so late? I've already sent out the news. 9th Young Lord flew forward. The leader of the primordial light race behind him was a young man who looked to be in his 20s. He wore a green robe and looked similar to 9th Young Lord. He was the 8th Young Lord of the primordial light race. His name was Yuan Baji. 9th Young Lord's name was Yuan Jiuji. 9th Brother, I'm sorry. We're late because we were attacking a meridian. Yuan Baji smiled faintly. I'm sure you've gained a lot from attacking a meridian. Yuan Jiuji said courteously. It's all right. Compared to this meridian, it's a far cry. Is the Lu Ming you mentioned still inside? Yuan Baji looked at the mountain peak. Yes, he's still inside. In a few months, the formation of this mountain peak will be torn apart. Yuan Jiuji said. End of chapter. Chapter 4858. Yuan Jiuji and Yuan Baji met up, but they didn't realize that there were two groups of people hiding in the other two directions of the mountain range. These two groups of people were the quasi-sage tribe led by Tsang Qiong, and the heavenly human tribe led by the Lord of Heaven of Extermination and the Lord of Heaven of 100 Battles. Back then, after they rushed out of the ancient city, they separated and each found a secret place to hide. But some time ago, the qi vein that Lu Ming and the others were in cracked open. The heavenly abode divine light in the depths of the qi vein rushed out from the ground and into the sky. It could be seen from afar. The quasi-sage tribe and the heavenly human tribe rushed over after seeing the heavenly abode divine light. But when they arrived, they found the primordial light tribe. They were shocked and found a secret place to hide. When they saw another group of primordial light tribe rushing over, they were even more shocked. However, this qi vein was too big. It was much bigger than the ones they had encountered before. It definitely contained a lot of treasures. They were very tempted and didn't want to leave just like that. Although their strength was far inferior to the primordial light tribe, this qi vein was very big and occupied a large area. It wasn't impossible for them to fish in troubled waters and obtain some benefits. Moreover, they had already sent a message to their tribe members and asked them to gather here. When they met up with other experts, their chances of success would be much higher. From the looks of it, Lu Ming and the others escaped into that mountain range. That's why the primordial light tribe has been surrounding them. The Lord of Heaven of Extermination said, "There are layers of array formations in the mountain range. When the primordial light tribe kills their way in, they won't be able to advance or retreat. Only death awaits them." The Lord of Heaven of 100 Battles sneered. "By the way, is there still no news from the ancestor?" The Lord of Heaven of Extermination turned around and asked an old Lord of Heaven. "Not yet. Wait a minute." The old Lord of Heaven shook his head. Suddenly his expression changed. He took out a voice transmission jade talisman and read it. Then he revealed a look of joy. "I got it. The ancestors sent a message. They are attacking a qi vein. As long as they get the treasures inside, they will rush over here. They told us not to act rashly for the time being." The old Lord of Heaven said, "All right, an ancestor is coming? Our confidence? It's much bigger now. Destroy the Lord of Heaven?" Looks of joy appeared on the faces of the Lord of Heaven and the others. He heaved a huge sigh of relief. Against the creatures of the Forbidden Lands? Were they under too much pressure? They were constantly in danger and in fear. With Yi Wuchang, it was as if they had a backbone. In their hearts, no matter how big of a crisis it was, they would never be able to escape. Yi Immortal would lead them through it. Because of Yi Immortal? He was the strongest patriarch in the history of the heavenly human tribe. Another direction? The quasi-saint race was also making preparations. Very soon? Another 3 months passed. Rumbling sounds continued to ring out in this area. On the ground? Huge cracks appeared on the ground as purple paradise god light gushed out from the ground. The mountain where Lu Ming and the others were was almost cracked. The array formations on the mountain were also constantly torn apart and destroyed. Of course, some mountain peaks in the depths of the mountain range were not damaged or cracked. They were still shrouded in terrifying array formations. But it was only a matter of time before they were torn apart and collapsed. It's done. The array formations on this mountain peak have been completely destroyed. It's no longer a threat to us. We can go up now. Yuan Yu, an array master from the primordial light race, said. It's indeed destroyed. Yuan Baji also brought an array master with him and nodded. Brother Ba, in order to prevent Lu Ming and the others from escaping, let's split up and attack from 2 sides of the mountain peak. What do you think? Yuan Jiuji looked at Yuan Baji and said, That's exactly what I want. This Lu Ming dared to kill the people of my race. Let's see who can kill him. Let's go. Yuan Baji finished speaking. Then he led the experts he brought and rushed to one side of the mountain peak. Let's go. Yuan Jiuji waved his hand and led a group of experts to the mountain peak where Lu Ming and the others were. Of course, they all avoided those cracks. That was because there was still heavenly light rushing out of those cracks. It was extremely dense and powerful. They did not dare to face it head-on. They're coming. On the mountain peak, Lu Ming and the others saw the actions of the primordial light race clearly. They're indeed splitting up. Fortunately, we've made preparations beforehand. Xian Yanqing whispered. Lu Ming is so thoughtful. We've prepared a way out. Wan Shindao said. The two groups of primordial light race attacked from two directions. They definitely could not withstand the attacks by relying on the array formations set up by Dandan. It would be good enough if they could cause some damage to the other party. Lu Ming had already considered this point and had prepared a way out in advance. Let's hide and give them a hard time later, Lu Ming said. His body flickered and Lu Ming and the others hid. Yuan Jiuji led at least 500 experts and rushed towards the mountain peak. Soon, they were close to the mountain peak. At that moment, they had also stepped into the range of the array formations set up by Dandan. Oh no, there's an array formation fluctuation. At that moment, Yuan Yu, the array formation master of the primordial light race, suddenly shouted. You've only just realized that your skills are too low. Rise. Dandan's voice was heard. Then, dense runes appeared on the ground. A huge array formation appeared and shrouded the people of the primordial light race. At the same time, the array formation condensed rays of purple light that were like purple battle swords and attacked the people of the primordial light race. Ah! The screams were heard. Suddenly, more than a dozen people of the primordial light race were killed by the purple sword light. Block it! Block it for me! Yuan Jiuji roared. The people of the primordial light race moved quickly. The rays of light danced and intertwined with each other like a net, shrouding all the people of the primordial light race. There were too many experts there. More than 500 people of the primordial light race joined forces and had an amazing defensive power. They immediately blocked the purple sword light. Humph, it's not that easy to block the array formation that I have spent so much effort to set up. Dandan snorted. After his cultivation had reached the 8th level Divine Master realm, the power of his array formation had also increased. At the same time, this array formation was not complete. It had been set up by Dandan himself. He had combined some of the remnants of the array formation on the mountain peak with his own runes and the runes of the array formation on the mountain peak. It possessed part of the original power of the array formation on the mountain peak. It was many times more powerful than the array formation set up by Dandan alone. Condense! Dandan shouted as her hands moved quickly. The purple sword lights quickly converged and formed a massive battle sword that slashed at the Origin Light Tribesmen. The defensive wall formed by the light beam hair was formed by the Origin Light Tribesmen. Boom! An earth-shattering boom was heard. The rays of light were constantly torn apart and broken. The defensive wall formed by the intertwined rays of light was forcibly broken. A terrifying force rushed in and killed 5 or 6 experts of the primordial light race. Then the huge light sword rushed through the gap and killed its way in. Yuan Jiuji and the others were shocked. Chapter 4859. The light sword formed by the array was so powerful that it broke through the defense of the primordial light clan and killed 5 or 6 people in an instant. It then went straight for Jiao Gongzi's forehead. Yuan Jiuji's face changed drastically. The power of the light sword was too terrifying. He definitely couldn't block it. At the critical moment, 2 figures rushed out and arrived in front of Yuan Jiuji. They were the 2 Guangqin royal envoys beside Yuan Jiuji. The 2 Guangqin royal envoys shouted and their bodies seemed to turn into 2 divine lights as they rushed towards the light sword. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion erupted, unleashing a terrifying force that engulfed a few of the primordial light tribe cultivators in the vicinity, pulverizing them instantly. Even Yuan Jiuji was pushed back rapidly as if he was hit by a huge wave. Then, 2 figures retreated even faster than Yuan Jiuji. They were the 2 Guangqin royal envoys. The light on their bodies trembled as blood flowed out from the corners of their mouths. Ha! Guangqin royal envoys? You have to kneel before me. Dandan laughed proudly. The 2 Guangqin royal envoys were injured. This was definitely an amazing achievement. It would be strange if Dandan wasn't proud. Of course, with Dandan's current cultivation, it would be difficult for him to injure the 2 Guangqin royal envoys so easily even if he had a few months to set up the array. The main reason was that Dandan had used the remnant array runes here to greatly increase the power of the array. That was why he could achieve this result. After repelling the 2 Guangxin royal envoys with one move, Dandan continued to control the light sword to attack Yuan Jiuji. Set up the formation. Set up the formation. Block their formation. Yuan Jiuji shouted as he retreated. Swish. 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 There were a total of 21 Primordial Light clan members. They held battle swords covered with runes and set up a joint attack array to form a huge battle sword. 21 people's joint attack array? Was it Yuan Jiuji's strongest force? Was it what Lu Ming and the others were most afraid of? It was this joint attack array that had broken through the ancient city's defense. Clang. The battle sword formed by the 21 people's joint attack array and the battle sword formed by Dandan's array? Clashing together? There was an earth-shattering explosion. This time, the light sword formed by Dandan's array? Was it blocked? Even the light was somewhat dim. In one go? Had he broken his array? I want them to die. 9 Origin roared. Kill! The 21 people who set up the formation shouted in unison. Full control of the combined attack formation? Take the initiative to attack. It won't be that easy to break my formation. Dandan shouted loudly as his hands continuously danced, striking out one rune after another, causing the formation to shine brightly, constantly injecting new power. The radiance of the lightsaber grew brighter again. Clang, 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 2 streaks of sword light constantly collided. Terrifying power was constantly bursting out in all directions. The other members of the Primordial Light tribe did not even dare to set foot in the area, let alone defend themselves. Go and kill them. Yuan Jiuji stared at Lu Ming and the others. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent as he instructed a Guangxin royal emissary. Don't worry, 9th young master. I'll go take their heads. The Guangxin royal emissary, who looked to be in his 20s, spoke indifferently. His figure was like a ray of light as he rushed towards Lu Ming and the others. His light hair was like a sharp sword as it pierced towards Lu Ming and the others. Losers, you still dare to come and fight. Lu Ming shouted coldly. Now that you have one less person, I want to see how you will set up the formation. Guangxin royal emissary sneered. The one less person he was referring to was Dandan. Dandan was now fully controlling the formation. It was impossible for him to set up the combined attack formation. With one less person to set up the combined attack formation, the power would definitely be reduced by a lot. This was also the reason why he dared to attack Lu Ming and the others. Bone Demon, leave this person to me. I'll go and kill 9th young master. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Bone Demon. Don't worry, leave it to me. I want to test my strength. Bone Demon chuckled and took a step forward. His figure soared into the sky and rushed towards Guangxin royal emissary. The purple gold battle axe had already appeared in his hand. Berserk Demon God Slash. Bone Demon slashed out with the purple gold battle axe in his hand. Suddenly, demonic chi raged. Dozens of demonic blades appeared in the void and slashed in all directions. Guangxin royal emissary's light beam hair was constantly destroyed. Guangxin royal emissary's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly retracted his light beam hair. If he was any slower, he would have become bald. His body glowed and constantly distorted. He turned into a ray of light and finally transformed into a battle sword. The battle sword pierced through the air, ignoring the dozens of demonic blades and directly attacking Bone Demon. Good. Bone Demon sneered. The purple gold battle axe struck out again. This time, it was not dozens of demonic blades, but a single one. It collided with Guangxin royal emissary. Boom. The two exchanged a blow and then retreated at the same time. Your battle strength? No, that's a Genesis technique. You're only a peak divine master. How can you use a Genesis technique? Guangxin royal emissary roared in shock. Bone Demon's battle strength was too terrifying. He was extremely shocked that Bone Demon could match him. What shocked him even more was that Bone Demon could use a Genesis technique. It was because Bone Demon could use Genesis techniques that he could match him. Apart from Genesis techniques, Bone Demon's physical strength was inferior to his. But weren't Genesis techniques only origin realm existences able to use? How could a peak divine master use one? He wasn't the only one. Yuan Jiuji and the other members of the Yuanguang clan were also extremely shocked. Haha, there are many more things that you'll be surprised about. Come, let's fight to the death. Bone Demon's soul laughed loudly. He charged towards Guangqian royal emissary with the purple gold battle axe in hand and used another Genesis technique. Guangqian royal emissary unleashed his full strength and charged towards Bone Demon. The two figures engaged in a fierce battle in the void. In an instant, they had exchanged more than a dozen blows, but there was no clear victor. But although there was no clear victor, Bone Demon gradually began to gain the upper hand. In the immeasurable demon abyss, Bone Demon had fused with a skeleton. Its origin was absolutely astonishing. Not only did it make Bone Demon indestructible, but the demonic chi contained in his body was also astonishingly rich. Even if he constantly used Genesis techniques, he wasn't afraid of overdrawing his strength. He relied on his powerful defense to attack with all his strength and slowly began to suppress Guangqian royal emissary. Nearby, Yuan Jiuji's expression was extremely ugly as he ordered the other Guangqian royal emissary to deal with Bone Demon. Lu Ming stepped forward and blocked Guangqian royal emissary's path. Your opponent is me. You, a mere 8th level divine master, don't overestimate yourself. Guangqian royal emissary was called Yuan Han. As he spoke, a beam of light shot towards Lu Ming like a sharp sword. Underestimating me? Very well. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curved in a cold smile as anticipation filled his eyes. After comprehending the 3000th ancient secret technique, his forbidden power had undergone a qualitative change. He also wanted to know if his current battle strength could match a Guangqian royal emissary. The battle character art instantly activated 9 times his battle strength. Forbidden power frantically circulated throughout his body. Lu Ming's hand reached out and accurately caught a beam of light from Yuan Han's hair. Chapter 4860. Lu Ming grabbed a strand of Yuan Han's hair. No matter how hard Yuan Han tried, the strand of hair didn't move at all. What's going on? Yuan Han was shocked. Before he could react, he felt a terrifying force surging from the strand of hair, trying to drag him out. If he didn't react, he would fall flat on his face. Damn it, break! Yuan Han had no choice but to roar and cut off his own hair. Only then did he get rid of Lu Ming. Swish! The next moment, Lu Ming appeared above his head like a stream of light. The war god's spear was as huge as a mountain and pressed down on him. The terrifying might made the muscles all over Yuan Han's body start trembling. Holy light heavenly void slash! Yuan Han roared. Multicolored light rushed out of every pore on his body and condensed into a battle sword above his head. At the same time, a battle sword appeared in his hand. It was obviously a source-level divine weapon. The multicolored light and the source-level divine weapon converged and then soared into the sky, colliding with the war god's spear. There was a shocking explosion. Lu Ming's figure retreated, but Yuan Han was in the same situation. His body shook violently as he retreated continuously, creating more than a dozen large pits on the ground. Your combat strength, how can it be so strong? Yuan Han roared in shock. Not far away, Yuan Jiuji's eyes almost popped out. His face was full of disbelief. Lu Ming could actually contend with Yuan Han head-on. How was this possible? Lu Ming's cultivation was clearly at the 8th level of the Divine Master realm and hadn't broken through. How could his combat strength soar? He felt that his brain had short-circuited. He really couldn't figure it out. Again! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. His fighting spirit surged and his confidence increased. He felt that the previous royal envoy's combat strength was nothing more than this. Heaven-breaking style. This time, Lu Ming used the heaven-breaking style. A terrifying spear light stabbed out. Wherever the spear light passed, the void seemed to evaporate. Holy light heavenly dragon slash! Yuan Han roared. He also erupted with a terrifying killing move. He fought against Lu Ming. A huge light dragon? He rushed towards the spear light. This time, Yuan Han was at a disadvantage. After the light dragon and the spear light collided, what happened? Violent tremors? Then it collapsed. Yuan Han retreated, barely avoiding Lu Ming's spear light, but he felt a stabbing pain in his chest. What if he had been a little slower? His chest was about to be pierced by the spear light. The power of the heaven-crushing technique? So strong. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He was greatly excited. Was his guess right? After successfully comprehending the 3,000th ancient secret skill, not only had the taboo energy undergone a qualitative change, but even the secret technique he had comprehended, the heaven-crushing style, had undergone a qualitative change and become even more terrifying. The power of the heaven-splitting style increased greatly? What about the prehistoric style? Boom! Lu Ming directly struck out with his palm. A gigantic continent was formed. It pressed down on Yuan Han. The mountains and lakes above were clearly visible, as if it was a real world. Furthermore, an ancient and primeval aura effused out. It was heavy like the universe, and it carried the brilliant might of the heavens as it pressed down towards Yuan Han. Before the continent pressed down, Yuan Han already felt a huge pressure. Break for me, break, break. There was no way to retreat. The huge continent was finished. It completely enveloped Yuan Han, and he could only face the attack head-on. Yuan Han raised his battle strength to the peak, and his entire body turned into a light sword, fusing with the origin grade divine weapon as one. He turned into a sword light and rushed towards the continent. Boom! Another earth-shattering rumble sounded, and the continent shook violently. Cracks appeared on it, but it did not shatter. Instead, the sword light that Yuan Han turned into trembled non-stop, and it was densely covered with cracks. Then, with a bang, it exploded. Yuan Han's body retreated rapidly, but what welcomed him was a terrifying spear light. Heaven-crushing style. When Lu Ming cast the prehistoric move, he had already cast the heaven-breaking move. After Yuan Han was sent flying, the heaven-breaking move followed. Ah! Yuan Han let out a hysterical roar, feeling the approach of death. He resisted with all his strength, but it was useless. His body was penetrated by the spear light, and a terrifying power erupted from Yuan Han's body, blasting him into 5 or 6 pieces. Even his soul was torn apart. However, Yuan Han did not die. His broken body turned into a stream of light, rapidly retreating, and condensed in the void again. However, his aura was a lot weaker, and his face was pale as if he had been seriously ill. What a strong vitality, what a strong soul. Lu Ming's face was also very solemn. If it was an ordinary creature, such as a celestial race expert, their soul would be torn apart by his move, and they would definitely die. But Yuan Han was actually fine. One had to admit that the vitality and soul of the people of the Primordial Light clan were unbelievably powerful. However, no matter how strong they were, after being hit by Lu Ming's move, they were also seriously injured, and their combat strength was greatly reduced. How could Lu Ming miss such an opportunity? He planned to use this opportunity to get rid of Yuan Han. This was a former Guangqian royal envoy. Even the Primordial Light clan did not have many of them. Getting rid of one would be a great blow to the other party's strength. Swish! Lu Ming rushed out and began to kill. Set up the formation to stop him. 9 Origin roared. There were only 2 former Guangqian royal envoys by his side, and they were his right-hand men. Nothing must happen to them. Swish! Swish! The remaining Primordial Light clan members began to set up the formation. 3 array formations with 9 people and 7 array formations with 7 people were all set up and charged toward Lu Ming. Heavenly demon territory. 9 apertures in 1. Illusory light pillar. Xian Yanqing, Qiuqiu Autumn Moon, and Qiuqiu also made their moves, trying to stop the formation. However, there were only 3 of them and they were still far from enough. However, at this moment, Dandan and the 21 people's formation had won. After so many moves, the 21 Primordial Light clan members who set up the formation had consumed a lot of their strength. At this time, some of them finally exhausted their strength, causing the formation to collapse. As for Dandan, he had continuously controlled the formation and had consumed a lot of his strength. Although most of the formation's power came from absorbing the power of heaven and earth, the person controlling the formation would also consume his strength. If Dandan had not broken through and was still a 6th-level Divine Master, he would not have been able to withstand it. Now that he was an 8th-level Divine Master, he did not have much strength left, but he still had a little strength left. He waved his hands, and the formation condensed dozens of sword lights that shot toward the Primordial Light Clan's formation. Lu Ming, I'll block them for you. You killed that Guangxin royal envoy. Dandan shouted. Lu Ming did not answer. He told everyone with his actions. Boom. The desolation form was used again, and another continent was formed and pressed down on Yuan Han. At the same time, the sky-breaking form was used again. 2 killer moves, a pincer attack, attacked Yuan Han from both sides. Ninth young master, save me. Yuan Han shouted in horror. Facing Lu Ming's 2 killer moves, he would not be able to resist even if he was at his peak, let alone now that he was severely injured. Chapter 4861. Damn it, Yuan Zhuji kept roaring but didn't dare to stay. He quickly retreated because he was afraid of being enveloped by Lu Ming's chaos style. Even though he was far away, he could feel the terror of the chaos style and the hair on his skin stood on end. He had a feeling that if he was hit by the chaos style, he would be killed even with his vitality. He wanted to save Yuan Han, but he was powerless. At this moment, a roar came from the other side of the mountain. Niney Origin's face revealed a look of wild elation and he roared, "Eighth brother, quickly come over, quickly come over." Yuan Baji led his men and charged over from the other side of the mountain. The battle between Lu Ming and Yuan Zhuji and the others might seem long, but it didn't take much time. Their attacks were as fast as lightning and dozens of moves only took a few breaths. Streams of light flew over from the other side of the mountain. There were 2 figures flying at the front. They were astonishingly fast and exuded a terrifying aura. Lu Ming was unmoved. He continued to attack Yuan Han with his killer move. This time, Yuan Han couldn't resist and let out a shrill scream. His body was smashed into powder and his soul was completely obliterated. This time, he was completely dead. A Guangxin royal envoy, an expert comparable to Gu Changfeng, was killed just like that. Great. Dandan and the others were excited. The people of the Primordial Light Clan felt a chill in their hearts. Guangxin royal envoy? It was said that he was invincible as long as his origin source didn't appear. He could even contend with weaker origins. Such an existence? In a one-on-one situation? He was killed? This was unbelievable. Moreover, the one who killed him was an 8th-level Divine Master? If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. My battle prowess is a little stronger than I thought. Lu Ming pondered. Forbidden power, a self-created secret technique? A qualitative change happened? A surge in power? After he unleashed his combat strength to the peak? Finished. He could suppress a Guangxin royal envoy. Of course. Why was he able to kill him just now? It was also because the other party was a little careless that he seized the opportunity to severely injure him at the beginning. If the other party was a little more cautious, it would not have been that easy for him to deal a heavy blow to the other party. There was another reason. Lu Ming's Battle God Spear was of a higher grade than the opponent's source-level divine weapon. This would also give Lu Ming an advantage. But overall, Lu Ming's combat strength? He had already surpassed the other party. Such combat strength? Under the origin, he was almost invincible. You're courting death. At this moment, in another direction, a furious roar was heard. The 2 experts flying at the very front each unleashed a killing move. 2 rays of light of different colors shot towards Lu Ming and the others. Block it. Dandan bellowed as he tried his best to control the formation to block the 2 attacks. But in the end he was only able to block 1 attack. The other attack flew towards Lu Ming. The War God's spear vibrated and swept out horizontally, colliding with this ray of light. However, Lu Ming's body was also greatly shaken and he was forced to retreat. Ambassador Guangxian. Lu Ming's heart trembled as his expression turned solemn. On the other side, Dandan controlled the formation to block the other ray of light, but Dandan's body was also forced to retreat. The surrounding rune formation's light dimmed. After a series of battles, The energy of the formation set up by Dandan was about to be exhausted. Go! Lu Ming shouted and rushed towards Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and the others, gathering with Autumn Moon and the others. Bone Demon also repelled his opponent with one move and retreated to Lu Ming's side. Bone Demon originally had the upper hand in the battle. It was naturally easy for him to retreat. After they gathered, they directly rushed towards the depths of the mountain peak. Kill, kill, don't let them escape, kill them for me. Yuan Jiuji roared crazily. A Guangqian emissary was killed right in front of his eyes. He was on the verge of going crazy. Since he was called the 9th young master, he knew that he had many brothers and sisters. There was also a huge competitive relationship between them. He had worked hard to win over the 2 Guangqian royal envoys. They were his capital to compete with his brothers and sisters. Now, one of them had been killed. This was a huge loss. His heart was bleeding. If one wanted to nurture or rope in a Guangqian Wang envoy, the price one had to pay was frighteningly high. Sush, sush. The Yuanguang tribe launched a frenzied attack on Lu Ming and the others. On the other side, Yuan Baji led the experts to attack Lu Ming and the others. The ordinary attacks of the Yuanguang tribe were easy to deal with. Lu Ming and Bone Demon were able to block them one by one. However, there were 3 attacks that posed a great threat to them. Even if Lu Ming and Bone Demon went all out, it would be difficult to block them. These 3 people were the 3 Guangqian ambassadors. One was beside Yuan Jiuji and the other 2 were beside Yuan Baji. Fortunately, the Bone Demon relied on its perverted defense to block the attack. As they blocked the attacks, they flew towards the depths of the mountain peak, which was the depths of the mountain range. The depths of the mountain range were still covered with terrifying array formations that had not been torn apart yet. The cracks in the ground had not extended to this place yet. This was the escape route they had thought of before. Dandan had also studied this place. They planned to use the array formations here to resist the Yuanguang tribe. Nestle, the 3 Guangqian ambassadors, there are too many experts among the creatures in this forbidden area. If they attack the Heaven Destroyer's base, we will not be able to stop them at all. Dandan exclaimed in shock. Lu Ming and the others were also shocked. The number of experts in the Yuanguang tribe was far beyond their imagination. There were only so many of them, but there were already 4 Guangqian ambassadors. There were at least 20 or 30 Guangqian ambassadors who were comparable to the Lord of Heaven. This kind of combat strength was far beyond that of the heavenly human tribe. Among the heavenly human tribe, only the Yi Immortal was comparable to the Guangqian ambassadors. In the Heaven Destroyer, only Gu Changfeng was comparable. The difference was too great. If the Yuanguang tribe was so powerful, the other creatures in the forbidden area, such as the Baleful Yin tribe and the Blue Sea tribe, were probably not much weaker. Although they were few in number, their combat strength was far beyond that of the Heaven Destroyer or the heavenly human tribe. If they were not afraid of the Origin Realm, they would have attacked the Heaven Destroyer's base long ago. Tang Jun said. Lu Ming and the others were well aware of this. Under the Great Origin Tribulation, Origin Realm existences had sealed themselves in a deep sleep to avoid the Great Origin Tribulation. However, this did not mean that they could not awaken and fight. Origin Realm existences could also remove their seals and fight. However, the price for doing so was death. Once Origin Realm existences removed their seals and fought, it would not take long for their origin root to be sucked away. Their cultivation level would drop, and they might even die. Moreover, under the Great Origin Tribulation, once they removed their seals, they would not have a second chance to seal themselves. In other words, once they removed their seals, there would only be one outcome, the dissipation of their origin root. Under normal circumstances, no Origin Realm existences would do this. However, if it was a matter of life and death, this was not necessarily the case. Chapter 4862. In a moment of life and death, such as when the Heaven Destroyer was about to be destroyed, someone in the Heaven Destroyer's core would definitely release the seal and sacrifice themselves to kill the enemy. That was why the beings of the Forbidden Grounds didn't attack the heavenly human race, the quasi-immortal race, or the Heaven Destroyer's base. They were afraid of the Origin Realm experts. In the past, the heavenly human race had defeated the demons because the demon's core was sealed in the dark cosmos. After that, the heavenly human race had attacked the Heaven Destroyer's base. Lu Ming and the others guessed that the heavenly human race had most likely brought Origin Realm experts with them. After all, the heavenly human race had brought many war chariots and stood guard in the distance. There were most likely Origin Realm experts in the war chariots. Otherwise, the heavenly human race wouldn't have been so bold as to attack the Heaven Destroyer's base. As long as the Heaven Destroyer had an Origin Realm expert who released the seal, the heavenly human race would most likely have an Origin Realm expert who released the seal as well. If the Heaven Destroyer's core hadn't awakened, the heavenly human race naturally wouldn't have allowed it to awaken. Once it did, only death would await it. The primordial light race had 3 Guangqian royal ambassadors and some other terrifying combination formations. Lu Ming and the others felt a huge pressure. It was all thanks to Lu Ming and Guemo that they blocked the attacks of the primordial light race. As they blocked the attacks, they retreated. Soon, they left the mountain and went to another mountain. When they arrived at another mountain, Dandan took the lead and charged forward. The mountain was still covered in terrifying formations. However, Dandan had already studied them and found a way out of the formations. This was a way out that they had found long ago. Lu Ming and the others followed Dandan into the formation. Soon after, the attacks of the primordial light race arrived. However, the surrounding formations immediately appeared and turned into a terrifying killing force that destroyed the attacks one by one. The primordial light race rushed to the front of the formations and stopped again. They didn't dare to advance any further. Haha, come and hit us if you have the ability. Dandan hooted. Damn it. Yuan Jiuji roared furiously. His face was incomparably ferocious and cold. On you, break the formation for me. 9 Origin roared. 9th young master, I can't do that. Yuan Yu lowered her head and said, what a trash. Yuan Jiuji berated, but he slowly calmed down. He was also clear that Yuan Yu did not have this ability. Otherwise, they would not have had to wait a year. 8th brother, do your people have a way to break the formation? Yuan Jiuji then looked at Yuan Baji. Yuan Baji asked the array formation master he had brought, but the result was that there was no solution. Although we can't break the formation, this chi vein will eventually collapse. Moreover, it won't be long before these mountains are all destroyed. When that time comes, those formations won't be able to help them. Origin Baji said, we can set up formations in the cracks in front and use the formations to bombard the cracks and speed up the collapse of this meridian. In less than 2 months, this mountain will also be torn apart. Yuan Yu said, all right, I'll leave it to you. Yuan Jiuji nodded. Immediately, Yuan Yu and the other array formation masters retreated and began to set up formations in the huge cracks behind them. Not long after, the formation began to emit a dazzling light, pushing the cracks, causing the rumbling sounds to become more and more intense. The cracks extended forward, and in just 10 days, it extended to the mountain where Lu Ming and the others were. Rumble. The cracks split open, and the heavenly light rushed out from the ground, forming a destructive force that constantly attacked the formation above. Bang, bang, bang. The sounds of explosions continued to be heard, and the rune formations continued to explode and break. Halfway up the mountain, Lu Ming and the others looked a little solemn. They were trapped. Dandan, can you do it? It won't be long before this mountain is torn apart. Wanshin urged. Once the formation was gone, they would have to fight the primordial light race head-on. Although their battle strength had skyrocketed and they had a 10-man joint attack formation, they were definitely no match for the primordial light race. The primordial light race had 3 Guangqian royal ambassadors and a joint attack formation. For example, the 21 people's joint attack formation was very terrifying. Yuan Baji most likely had such a terrifying formation around him. If they were to fight head-on, they would most likely die. However, they were trapped. They were trapped by the formation here. What do you know? This formation is constantly changing. It's different from when I was studying it before. I miscalculated. Dandan glared at Wanshin and then continued to study it. However, they were still trapped and could not break out for a few days. The rumbling sounds from the ground became more and more intense, and more formations on the mountain were being torn apart. The huge cracks continued to approach Lu Ming and the others. Haha, it seems like they are trapped. They brought this upon themselves. Yuan Jiuji could also see that Lu Ming and the others were in trouble and could not help but be excited. In the blink of an eye, another 2 days passed. All right, I've finally finished studying it. Wait a moment. Follow me closely. Don't relax. Dandan shouted and began to wave his hands, sending out tens of thousands of runes. These runes formed rune threads that wrapped around some of the surrounding formation runes. Then, Dandan's body flickered as he rushed forward. Lu Ming and the others followed Dandan's footsteps without the slightest deviation. Soon, they had advanced a few hundred meters. Everything was going smoothly. They were about to break out of the formation. As long as they broke out of the formation, Dandan would be able to take Lu Ming to the peak of the mountain. Perhaps they would be able to escape from the other side of the mountain and shake off the primordial light race. However, at that moment, something strange happened. A pitch-black vortex suddenly appeared beside Xian Yanqing. It emitted a terrifying devouring power that tried to swallow Xian Yanqing. Not good. This formation is actually hiding something. Be careful. Dandan let out a startled cry. That vortex's power was extremely terrifying. Xian Yanqing was unable to block it. He was about to be swallowed up. Little Qing. Lu Ming was incomparably anxious. He didn't have time to think about anything else. He pushed the extreme light arc to its peak and charged at Xian Yanqing. In an instant, Lu Ming appeared in front of Xian Yanqing. A powerful taboo energy crazily surged out, pushing Xian Yanqing away from the vortex. However, his body was sucked into the vortex and rapidly sucked into it. It was too fast. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had disappeared into the vortex. After Lu Ming disappeared, the vortex also quickly disappeared. Lu Ming! Xian Yanqing cried out in grief, incomparably anxious and panicked. Autumn Moon, Ling Yue, Wan Shun, and the others were the same. End of chapter. Chapter 4863. Everyone, don't panic. That whirlpool shouldn't be lethal. It's not a killing array. Lu Ming should be fine. Dandan said. Should be? Are you sure? Wan Shun's eyes widened. I'm sure. That whirlpool should be a teleportation formation. Lu Ming might have been teleported somewhere else. Wan Shun is willing to bet that he'll be fine. Let's leave this place first. Perhaps we'll meet Lu Ming on the other side of the mountain. Dandan said. Everyone was helpless. They could only suppress their worries and follow Dandan. Nothing happened after that. They successfully broke through the formation. The formation behind them would not change at any time. Dandan led the group and successfully broke through. There were also some buildings on this mountain peak. Unfortunately, they did not encounter any statues like the previous mountain peak, nor did they obtain any fortunate encounters. They arrived at the other side of the mountain. Dandan began to study the formation, preparing to break through and shake off the primordial light tribe. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. Rumble! Suddenly, there was an earth-shattering roar. The entire mountain shook violently. The heavenly abode light that rushed out from the cracks became even denser. Even the roar of a beast could be heard from the depths of the ground. At this moment, everyone's expression changed greatly. Why would there be a beast roar coming from the depths of the meridian? Could there be a terrifying beast living in the depths of the ground? A few roars came from the depths of the ground. Then the entire meridian shook even more violently. The cracks grew bigger and the formation on the mountain was collapsing rapidly. Boom! Then, a giant beast rushed out from the ground along with the heavenly abode light. The giant beast was purplish gold. It was completely formed by the heavenly abode light. The heavenly abode light here is so dense that it formed a beast. Be careful. You can't fight against this giant beast. The primordial light tribe was shocked. They quickly retreated and looked for a place to hide. On the other side of the mountain, Xian Yanqing, Guimo, and the others were also shocked. They instinctively sensed danger and quickly looked for a place to hide. The giant beast formed from heavenly abode divine light roared and swooped down. Streaks of heavenly abode divine light rushed out from its body, and they were even sharper than divine blades as they bombarded the ground. Boom! Boom! The ground rumbled and shattered rocks flew everywhere. Huge craters were formed on the ground. The cracks in the surrounding area were blown even wider. As for those spirit formations, they were also being destroyed by the heavenly paradise divine light. Other than the few mountain peaks in the center of the Qi meridian, everywhere else was a scene of destruction. This giant beast did not seem to have any intelligence. It only knew how to attack continuously. After a while, the giant beast finally came to a stop. At this point, the beast's body was much more illusory than before, and it was completely dim. Finally, with a bang, it turned into a ball of heavenly abode light and vanished. "Come, let's get out of here." Dandan immediately rushed out from a pile of rocks. Soon after, Xian Yanqing and the others also rushed out and followed Dandan. Originally, this side of the Qi meridian was also filled with powerful spirit formations. However, after being bombarded by the heavenly abode divine light earlier, the majority of the spirit formations had been destroyed. Only a few spirit formations remained. With only a few spirit formations remaining, they were naturally not a problem for Dandan. Of course, there were also a few spirit formations that were still intact. As long as they avoided them, they would be fine. Soon, Dandan, Xian Yanqing and the others disappeared from the Qi meridian. At this moment, a figure appeared on another mountain peak. This person was none other than Lu Ming. Earlier, he had been sucked into the vortex. In the next instant, he had arrived on another mountain peak. This Qi meridian had over a dozen majestic mountain peaks. In the depths of the mountain range, there were a few mountains that were the tallest and most majestic. Earlier, they had not been destroyed by the giant beast formed from heavenly abode divine light. As for the other mountain peaks, they had all been destroyed. The spirit formations on them had all become incomplete. Furthermore, the cracks were spreading rapidly, as if they were about to tear these mountain peaks apart. No one knew how deep these cracks were. They were like deep abysses that extended all the way to the depths of the earth. The entire Qi meridian looked like it was on the verge of collapse. Originally, when Lu Ming had been transported to this mountain peak, there had been a large number of spirit formations around it. However, these spirit formations had all been reduced to fragments. However, Lu Ming was not Dandan. His attainments in spirit formations were far inferior to Dandan's. Thus, he still had to be more careful. After all, even some incomplete spirit formations could sometimes unleash frightening attacks. If he was not careful, he would be hit. However, at least he would not be as hard-pressed to move as before. Little Qing and the others are with Dandan. They should be fine. I'll go to the top of the mountain to take a look. Lu Ming looked at the top of the mountain. There were also some buildings on the top of the mountain. Lu Ming had tasted the sweetness of success on the first mountain peak. Naturally, he wanted to try his luck here. At the same time, the people of the primordial light race also appeared from various hidden places. The spirit formations have all been destroyed. Good. Lu Ming, let's see where you can go now. Yuan Jiuji said coldly. Then he and Yuan Baji led the experts of the primordial light race and rushed forward. There were two places around the Qi meridian. The people of the quasi-saint tribe and the heavenly human tribe were hiding there. They had naturally seen what had happened on the Qi meridian. Almost all the spirit formations on the Qi meridian have been destroyed except for a few mountains in the deepest part. This Qi meridian must contain a great opportunity. We can't miss it. Let's go over too. Song Qiong said. At this moment, the number of people of the quasi-saint tribe here had reached more than 6,000. Over the past year, more and more experts of the quasi-saint tribe had come to join them. Song Qiong's confidence had also increased a lot. Song Qiong was very clear about the strength of the quasi-saint tribe. They were not afraid even if they encountered the primordial light race. Moreover, the range of the entire mountain range was very large. There were more than a dozen mountain peaks spanning hundreds of thousands of miles. Even if they entered, they might not necessarily encounter them. Let's go! Song Qiong led the experts of the quasi-saint tribe and rushed towards the Qi meridian from another direction. Annihilation, should we go over too? In another direction, the Lord of Heaven of 100 Battles asked the Lord of Heaven of Annihilation in a low voice. The Lord of Heaven of Annihilation's eyes flickered. He was a little hesitant. During this time, the Yi Immortal had not come to join them. Although another group of people of the heavenly human tribe had come to join them, their strength had not increased by much. There were only 7 of them who were as strong as the Lord of Heaven of Annihilation. If they encountered the experts of the primordial light race, it would be very dangerous. But in the end, the Lord of Heaven of Annihilation decided to take a risk. There is definitely a great opportunity here. If we are overcautious, the gap between us and the others will only widen. Moreover, this place is very large. We might not encounter the primordial light race. If we are careful, we should be fine. The Lord of Heaven of Annihilation said. In the end, the people of the heavenly human tribe carefully rushed towards the Chi meridian from another direction. End of chapter. Chapter 4864. After some careful research, Lu Ming finally arrived at the top of the mountain after some time. There were some majestic palaces at the top of the mountain. Lu Ming entered and walked around. However, he was disappointed because he did not find anything. There were no precious treasures left behind, nor were there any statues like the ones from before. Lu Ming felt that it was a pity when he thought of the 4 mysterious statues. Before they left, they wanted to take the 4 statues with them. Although they would lose their effect after some time, they could still give them to others. If they brought them back to the base of the Heaven Destroyer and let the people of the Heaven Destroyer study them, their secret skills would be greatly improved. Unfortunately, the 4 statues seemed to have taken root and could not be moved. Even with the ancient desolation ring, they could not be taken away. In the end, they could only give up. They thought that there would be treasures in the other mountains, but they did not expect to find anything in this mountain. It seems that we can only find something in the depths of the realm energy channels. Lu Ming muttered. However, there was a lot of heavenly abode divine light rushing out from the depths of the realm energy channels. After walking around and finding nothing, Lu Ming headed to the other side of the mountain. He rushed to the mountain where they were trapped by the array formation. He was more worried about Xian Yinqing and the others. Now, except for the few mountains in the depths of the realm energy channels, the array formations on the other mountains were destroyed. The people of the primordial light race had swarmed in. If Xian Yinqing and the others were surrounded by a large number of primordial light race experts, they would be in great danger. Lu Ming broke through some of the array formations and soon arrived at the foot of the mountain. He was about to go to the other mountains when he suddenly sensed something and moved sideways. However, it was too late. There was an ear-piercing sound around him. Then there was a sharp sword light. To be precise, it was a beam of light that stabbed towards Lu Ming. Obviously, it was the primordial light race. Get lost! Lu Ming shouted. The battle god's spear had already appeared in his hand. He swept out and a huge spear light formed an arc. It swept in all directions. Rumble! The spear light was incomparably overbearing. Bringing about a violent force, it swept out in all directions, causing those beams of light to grow hair. They were all sent flying. Lu Ming? This time? Today is the day of your death. A cold voice sounded. Yuan Yu. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes slightly. Hearing the voice? Lu Ming knew who it was. Was he one of the 2 King of Light envoys by Yuan Jioji's side? The King of Guangqian who looked to be in his 20s? Yuan Yu. Previously, he had chased after Lu Ming and the others and was injured by the joint attack formation set up by Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming's gaze swept over and discovered that Yuan Yu was stepping in the air, his gaze extremely cold. Later, Yuan Yu wasn't the only one from the Yuanguang clan. There were also hundreds of other primordial light race experts. Inside? This included the 2 war envoys below the king. You think you can do it? Can you kill me? Lu Ming sneered. A hint of disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth, which made the murderous intent in Yuan Yu's eyes even more intense. He had previously boasted in front of Yuan Jioji and the other primordial light race members that he would take Lu Ming's head. However, he had been defeated by Lu Ming several times, so he was extremely unhappy. This time, he had led his men to search everywhere, but he had encountered Lu Ming alone. This was a rare opportunity. Lu Ming was alone, so he couldn't set up a joint attack formation. Although Lu Ming's combat strength was extremely terrifying and was almost on par with Yuan Yu's, he wasn't alone now. Set up the formation. Yuan Yu shouted coldly. As soon as Yuan Yu's voice fell, the figures of some primordial light race members flickered and set up a joint attack formation. 2 joint attack formations of 9 people were led by a war envoy below the king. The others were all peak divine masters and formed 2 giant battle swords. Lu Ming's face darkened slightly. The power of a joint attack formation of 9 people was already very terrifying. In addition, the people who set up the formation were very powerful, so its power was undoubtedly even more terrifying. It was no wonder that Yuan Yu was so confident even though he knew that Lu Ming was very powerful. The rest of you, assist in the attack. Kill. Yuan Yu shouted coldly as his body emitted a dazzling glow. It was as if his entire body had turned into a ray of light as he rushed toward Lu Ming. As he rushed out, his body turned into a battle sword. The 2 battle swords formed by the joint attack formation of 9 people also attacked Lu Ming from 2 other directions. 3 giant battle swords stabbed at 3 vital points of Lu Ming from 3 different directions. The violent sword chi had yet to reach Lu Ming, but it seemed as if it would tear Lu Ming apart. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly as the power in his body exploded to the peak. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming struck his palm and a piece of land condensed. Primordial desolation style. Now that Lu Ming's control of the primitive style had increased greatly, the primitive continent formed was very clear, as if it was real. Moreover, this continent was erected vertically like a huge shield. It rushed toward Yuan Yu and one of the joint attack formations of 9 people. Lu Ming did not expect to cause much damage to his opponent with this move. He only hoped to block his opponent. After using the primitive style, Lu Ming immediately used the heaven-piercing style, turning into a dazzling spear light that pierced toward the other joint attack formation of 9 people. Relatively speaking, although the joint attack formation of 9 people was powerful, equivalent to several of the strongest Lord of Heaven's battle strength, it was still not comparable to the Guangqian Wang envoy. Therefore, Lu Ming instantly decided to use the joint attack formation of 9 people as a breakthrough point. Clang! The dazzling spear light collided with the sword light head-on, erupting with a shocking roar and stirring up a sky full of energy. In the next moment, the sword light formed by the joint attack formation of 9 people trembled and then retreated violently. The light seemed to have dimmed somewhat. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. His figure did not stop and he continued to charge toward the other party. In the process of charging out, there were tens of thousands of light spots on his body that were emitting a dazzling brilliance, just like stars. Then, tens of thousands of light spots rushed out continuously. They were all different secret techniques that smashed toward his opponent. Lu Ming, on the other hand, continued to use the heaven-piercing style to attack his opponent. He wanted to break his opponent's joint attack formation in one go. His opponent was disrupted by a large number of secret techniques and could not avoid them. He could only take them head-on. "You're courting death!" Yuan Yu roared furiously. Together with another 9-man combined attack array, he had already defeated the primeval style and charged toward Lu Ming. "Let's go all out." Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a ruthless look, and layers of defensive secret techniques appeared behind him. That's right, Lu Ming was prepared to take his opponent's attack head-on. Bang! Lu Ming's spear light once again pierced the joint attack formation of 9 people. This time, the joint attack formation of 9 people could not block Lu Ming's attack. The condensed battle sword exploded with a bang, and 6 figures retreated violently. That's right, only 6 figures, because 3 of them had been torn apart by Lu Ming's attack. Their bodies and souls had been destroyed. Chapter 4865. But at this moment, 2 frightening sword glows struck Lu Ming. The defenses that Lu Ming had laid down were shattered layer by layer. In just a flash, all of the defenses that Lu Ming had laid down were destroyed. The 2 sword glows stabbed at Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming's body was sent flying and divided into 3 parts. However, Lu Ming did not die just like that. His vitality was astonishing, and his soul was scattered throughout his cells. As long as all of his cells were not destroyed, he would be able to recover. The three parts of his body quickly reconnected and began to recover with astonishing speed. Thick energy surged out of each of his cells, allowing Lu Ming to recover very quickly. As he recovered, he retreated, his face somewhat pale. 1/10 of my cells have been destroyed. Lu Ming was inwardly alarmed. The human body had 60 trillion cells. In other words, that attack just now had obliterated 6 trillion cells. From this, one could see just how terrifying the combined attack of Yuan Yu and the other 9 was. My cultivation is still too low, and my defense is still too low. It's a pity that little ball isn't here. Lu Ming's mind was racing. After all, he was only an 8th-tier god lord. Although his fighting strength was unparalleled, Lu Ming's strong suit was not his defense. He was not much stronger than an ordinary person. At most, he was comparable to a peak god lord. If Little Ball had been here, the soul-level armor that Little Ball had transformed into would have been able to block the majority of the attacks, and Lu Ming would not have been so heavily injured. He's still not dead? Yuan Yu and the others widened their eyes in shock. Yuan Yu was keenly aware of just how powerful that attack just now was. Let alone a mere 8th-tier god lord like Lu Ming, even an expert on the level of the Lord of Heaven would most likely perish if struck by such an attack. But Lu Ming had managed to endure it. What sort of freakish vitality was this? Continue attacking. I don't believe that his life is infinite. Yuan Yu roared as he continued to call on the others to attack. At the same time, he charged at Lu Ming. Die all of you, Lu Ming shouted. Then he threw a palm at the sky. Suddenly, a huge continent appeared in the sky. On the continent, mountains and lakes are clearly visible. There were streaks of colorful clouds that connected the entire continent. This kind of rosy clouds could be said to be the embryonic form of the Great Tao. What if Lu Ming cultivated the primordial desolate stance to a higher level and struck out with his palm? A condensed continent? There were even great Taos that connected, and it was as if a real great world was pressing down on the enemy. Furthermore, there might even be living beings appearing on it, acting out the joys and sorrows of separation. But at that level? Had it already reached an unimaginable level? How far away was Lu Ming? There was still a huge gap. But even now, the primitive style that Lu Ming displayed with his full strength? Its power was already extremely shocking. The continent was incomparably large, covering the sky and covering the sun. It appeared above everyone's heads, and then it suddenly pressed down. Let's attack together and destroy this continent. Yuan Yu roared. Thousands of strands of hair shot into the sky, like sharp swords. It pierced towards the mainland. Was it another array formation with 9 people attacking together? It turned into a shocking giant sword and slashed upwards. The other members of the Primordial Light clan also activated their strands of hair. The dense strands of hair pierced into the sky, and the scene was extremely spectacular. Rumble. The primitive continent was under a terrifying attack, and it kept shaking and exploding. However, there was still a terrifying impact. Some of the weaker members of the Primordial Light clan couldn't withstand the impact at all, and their bodies were torn apart. Even though the members of the Primordial Light clan had extremely strong vitality, those who were weaker than Lu Ming were too weak. They were torn apart by the terrifying impact and died. At least 30 members of the Primordial Light clan were killed in an instant. Lu Ming. Yuan Yu let out a hysterical roar and became one with the sword, completely turning into a light sword. It broke through the void and instantly charged towards Lu Ming. Fast, it was too fast. The members of the Primordial Light clan were known for their speed, and Yuan Yu's attack was even faster. It instantly closed in on Lu Ming. Buzz. Lu Ming waved the battle god spear and whipped it towards Yuan Yu. There was a loud bang and Lu Ming was pushed back. His body shook violently and the blood in his body was in turmoil. Previously, Lu Ming had been severely injured and 1/10 of his cells had been destroyed. He was still greatly affected, and his combat strength was not at its peak. The sword gleams transformed from the 9 people's joint attack array immediately launched an attack, slashing Lu Ming from the sky. Lu Ming blocked it with his spear, but he was still pushed back. Then, Yuan Yu's attack came again. The attacks of the array formation and Yuan Yu were endless, and they continued to press down on Lu Ming. If Lu Ming was at his peak, he would definitely be able to block it. However, his strength was greatly affected now, and he felt that it was very difficult for him to withstand the attacks of the two. He blocked and retreated at the same time. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind Lu Ming and launched a thunderous attack. This was a battle envoy below the king level. His combat strength was comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven. He was originally the core of the 9-person array formation. Previously, when the array formation was destroyed by Lu Ming, this person had been hiding in the surroundings, waiting for an opportunity to attack. At this moment, Lu Ming was suppressed and was unprepared. He immediately seized the opportunity and launched his strongest attack. Lu Ming did not dodge this attack, nor did he want to dodge. Because if he wanted to dodge this attack, he would not be able to dodge the attack of Yuanyu and the 9-person array formation. Compared to Yuanyu or the 9-person array formation, he would rather take the attack of a battle envoy below the king level. The sword light of the battle envoy pierced Lu Ming's heart. A terrifying power erupted and shattered Lu Ming's heart. If a normal person's heart was shattered, they would be severely injured even if they did not die. However, for Lu Ming, it was the same all over his body. There were no particularly obvious vital points. Therefore, although his heart was shattered, the impact was not great. When he was attacked by the battle envoy below the king level, Lu Ming had already used the primeval desolation style to condense a continent in front of him. After his heart was pierced, Lu Ming did not stop at all. Instead, he threw out a punch with a backhand. This battle envoy below the king level obviously did not expect that after Lu Ming's heart was shattered, he would be completely fine and could even launch a counterattack in an instant. He was stunned for a moment, but his fate was sealed. Boom! Lu Ming's fist fiercely smashed the head of the battle envoy below the king level, causing his head to explode. The terrifying power directly annihilated his soul. A battle envoy below the king level had fallen just like that. Bam! At this moment, Lu Ming's primeval desolation style exploded. A terrifying sword light struck Lu Ming. Lu Ming retreated rapidly, but he was still a step too late. His body was almost split into two, and a terrifying wound appeared. Lu Ming vomited a large mouthful of blood. His figure retreated rapidly and rushed in a direction. Chapter 4866. With Lu Ming's current combat strength, it was still too much for him to deal with these Yuan Guang tribe members. If he went all out, he would have no problem suppressing a Guangqin imperial envoy. If the other party was careless, he might even be killed by Lu Ming. Previously, one of Yuan Jiuji's Guangqin imperial envoys, Yuan Han, had died at the hands of Lu Ming. However, Yuan Han was killed by Lu Ming more or less because of his carelessness. To be honest, a Guangqin imperial envoy would not be killed so easily even if he was no match for Lu Ming. In addition, there were two powerful 9-man joint attack formations attacking Lu Ming together. Lu Ming was naturally no match for them. To be able to kill dozens of people under such a siege, including a king-level imperial envoy, was already an amazing combat strength. At this time, Lu Ming's combat strength was not at its peak and was no longer comparable to Yuan Yu's. If he did not leave now, when would he leave? Chase him, don't let him leave. Yuan Yu roared. His body was like a ray of light as he chased after Lu Ming. The 9-man joint attack formation turned into a sword light and chased after Lu Ming. As for the others, they followed far behind. Lu Ming's combat strength was too terrifying and they really did not dare to get too close. Lu Ming, you won't be able to escape. Yuan Yu shouted coldly. Thousands of light beams turned into thousands of sharp swords and stabbed at Lu Ming. The speed was so fast that the void was pierced and the whistling sound resounded through the sky. Boom! Lu Ming turned around and slapped out a palm. It turned into a huge continent and blocked behind him like a shield. At this time, Lu Ming's combat strength was not at its peak. The continent's power was also not at its peak. After being stabbed by hundreds of thousands of swords, it was immediately pierced with holes and then exploded. I've used up too much of my strength. Lu Ming's face was a little gloomy. Although the power of the heaven-breaking form and desolation form had increased greatly, The power consumed when using them had also increased correspondingly. Just now, Lu Ming continuously used the heaven-breaking style and desolate style, which consumed a lot of his energy. At this time, more than half of Lu Ming's taboo power had already been consumed. If this continued, Lu Ming's situation would become more and more unfavorable. He had to shake off Yuan Yu and the others as soon as possible. Let's go up the mountain and use the broken formation there. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He turned around and rushed towards the mountain peak that he had just descended from. Around the mountain, there were still many broken formations left. Although these formations were broken, it did not mean that there was no danger at all. Some of the broken formations still retained a terrifying power. Previously, Lu Ming had studied it carefully and spent a lot of time before he managed to pass through the array area. Although his attainments in formations were far inferior to Dandan's, it took him some time to memorize some of the broken formations that still possessed terrifying power. Lu Ming intended to use these broken formations to block Yuan Yu and the others so that he could escape. They had been at the foot of the mountain, so they quickly rushed to the array formation area. Lu Ming's figure changed and rushed past a broken formation that still possessed terrifying power. Lu Ming knew that there was a powerful broken formation here, but Yuan Yu and the others did not. They did not have the time to carefully identify it. Therefore, when Yuan Yu rushed over, he naturally triggered the broken formation. The broken formation was suffused with multicolored light. A part of the runes appeared and turned into dozens of purple blade lights that slashed towards Yuan Yu and the others. Yuan Yu's face changed drastically. His light beam hair danced wildly and formed an impenetrable defense in front of him. Bang! The purple blade lights slashed at Yuan Yu's light beam hair. Yuan Yu's light beam hair was constantly chopped off. Yuan Yu's body was also blocked. At the same time, the combined attack of the 9 people was also blocked by the purple blade lights. As for the other primordial light race members, because they were far behind, they weren't attacked by the broken formation. Otherwise, who knew how many of them would have died? Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lu Ming charged forward and quickly approached the mountain peak. "Go around this broken formation," shouted Yuan Yu. He rapidly retreated, dodging the sharp light of the broken formation. Then he chased after Lu Ming from another direction. The combined attack of the 9 people was the same. Unfortunately, this mountain peak still possessed terrifying broken formations. There was more than one. In their rush to chase after Lu Ming, they were led into holes several times by Lu Ming and were attacked by the broken formations. After being blocked several times, Yuan Yu and the others completely lost track of Lu Ming. Damn it, damn it. Standing at the top of the mountain and looking at the empty surroundings, Yuan Yu roared furiously, his face extremely distorted. He had suffered at the hands of Lu Ming time and time again. This time, he had even lost a battle envoy. Yuan Yu's mood was terrible. He wanted nothing more than to cut Lu Ming into pieces. At this time, Lu Ming had already left this mountain peak and appeared on the side of another mountain peak. Lu Ming's face was a bit pale, and he couldn't help coughing up blood. With a plop, Lu Ming sat on the ground, looking extremely dispirited. However, Lu Ming's gaze was still bright. He looked in a certain direction and shouted, "Who is it?" Lu Ming, what a coincidence. I didn't expect to run into you here." A cold laugh rang out. Then, a group of people appeared. They were actually from the heavenly human race. The one leading them was the Lord Extermination of Heaven. Beside the Lord Extermination of Heaven were 2 other experts on the same level as the Lord Heaven. However, the Lord Heaven of 100 Battles was nowhere to be seen. Obviously, the heavenly human race had split up. "Extermination, so it's you," Lu Ming said coldly. "Lu Ming, you seem to be seriously injured. However, your strength is really beyond my expectations. You actually managed to escape from so many experts of the Primordial Light Clan. Your speed of improvement is really frightening. I really can't let you live," the Lord Heaven of Extermination said. His eyes were emitting cold killing intent. He and the other 2 experts on the same level as the Lord Heaven slowly surrounded Lu Ming. "You saw everything just now?" Lu Ming pretended to be shocked and asked. "Of course. I happened to see it not far away, so I set it up here in advance. The Lord Heaven of Extermination smiled. You want to kill me with just the few of you? Lu Ming sneered. I have to admit that if you were at your peak, we wouldn't be able to kill you. However, I saw how seriously injured you were in the previous battle. It's already a miracle that you're still alive. How much strength do you still have? The Lord Heaven of Extermination sneered. Is that so? Why don't you try? Lu Ming said calmly. The Lord Heaven of Extermination couldn't help but hesitate when he saw Lu Ming's calmness. Lu Ming's combat strength was too terrifying. In the previous battle, Lu Ming was able to contend with the Guangqian Wang envoy. Such combat strength was simply shocking. During the battle at the Heaven Destroyer base, Lu Ming had killed 3 of the Lord Heaven's strongest experts and displayed his terrifying combat strength. Later on, Immortal speculated that Lu Ming shouldn't be able to use his strength at will. It might even be difficult for him to use it. The Lord Heaven of Extermination also came to this conclusion after many tests. Could they have guessed wrongly? End of chapter. Chapter 4867. Could they have guessed wrongly? Lu Ming's real combat strength had always been so terrifying. Had he been faking it all along? Had he been pretending to be weak all along? Even if he was faking it, he was seriously injured by the Primordial Light Tribe. It's a miracle that he didn't die from such injuries. He's just hanging on by a thread. He definitely doesn't have much power left. The Extermination Lord of Heaven warned himself. However, he was still unsure. He then looked at a tall and burly figure. It was a primordial divine spirit puppet. The heavenly human tribe originally had 2 divine spirit puppets and their combat strength was comparable to the Lord of Heaven. However, one of them had self-destructed and now there was only one left. The Extermination Lord of Heaven was cautious and he did not dare to step forward because of his doubts. He controlled the primordial divine spirit puppet and let it step forward. Bam! The primordial divine spirit puppet took a step forward and its body grew rapidly. Its body was filled with various kinds of powerful energy. These energies combined in a strange way and formed a chaotic and terrifying energy. Kill! The primordial divine spirit puppet roared and threw out a punch. The huge fist crushed the void into chaos and the giant fist was like a small mountain as it flew towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's expression did not change. The divine battle spear had already appeared in his hand. He performed the sky-piercing form and the spear struck the primordial divine spirit puppet's giant fist. The divine battle spear was sharp and indestructible. It broke through the chaotic energy of the primordial divine spirit puppet and pierced through its giant fist. Blood, flesh and bones splattered and the primordial divine spirit puppet could not help but retreat. Lu Ming flew forward and swept the divine battle spear across the primordial divine spirit puppet's body. The primordial divine spirit puppet's body shook violently as it retreated. Lu Ming launched a storm of attacks. The primordial divine spirit puppet was no match for Lu Ming. The difference was huge and it was completely crushed. Even if it was a puppet that was not afraid of death, it was useless. After 10 moves, with a bang, the primordial divine spirit puppet's body was swept away again. It flew out horizontally and almost broke into 2 halves. A few heavenly humans couldn't dodge in time and were hit by the primordial divine spirit puppet. Their bodies directly exploded, and the courtyard collapsed on the spot. As for the primordial divine spirit puppet, it was lying on the ground, motionless. It was already half destroyed. All of the heavenly human tribe cultivators gasped in shock. Your battle prowess, how is this possible? The Extermination Lord of Heaven roared in horror. His eyes were filled with fear and panic. The primordial divine spirit puppet had a combat strength comparable to the strongest Lord of Heaven, yet it had been crippled by Lu Ming in about 10 moves. Such combat strength was simply terrifying. It didn't look like it had been seriously injured and was struggling at death's door. He was clearly a demon king. Extermination, I will kill you today. Lu Ming's cold figure was heard. His murderous intent was as cold as a knife. He stepped in the air and a powerful aura pressed down on the Lord of Heaven. The Lord of Heaven's face turned pale and a chill ran down his spine. He turned around and left without hesitation. He was as fast as lightning. It's too late to leave now, Lu Ming said coldly. He stepped out and rushed toward the Lord of Heaven like a ray of light. Previously, the Lord of Heaven had targeted him several times and wanted to harm him. At that time, Lu Ming had tolerated it because it wasn't a good time to strike. Now there was no need. This time, he had to get rid of the Lord of Heaven. Although Lu Ming had been severely injured in the battle with the Primordial Light Tribe, it was not as serious as the Lord of Heaven and the others had imagined. Firstly, his vitality was extremely tenacious. His soul was scattered in every cell and it was difficult to destroy it all at once. Secondly, Lu Ming's recovery speed was also extremely terrifying. Although it hadn't been long, he had already recovered a lot. Although his remaining combat strength was not on par with experts at Yuan Yu's level, if he went all out, it was still very easy to deal with the strongest Heaven Monarch level existence. Previously, it only took him about 10 moves to cripple the primordial divine spirit puppet. In just a few breaths, Lu Ming caught up with the Lord of Heaven. Lu Ming, the Heavenly Human Tribe, the Quasi-Sage Tribe, and the Heaven Destroyer are in a cooperative relationship. You can't kill me. The Lord of Heaven roared in horror. Ridiculous! Lu Ming said indifferently. The war god's spear suddenly pressed forward. The spear light surged like a mountain and pressed down on the Lord of Heaven. I'll fight you to the death. The Lord of Heaven knew that Lu Ming wouldn't let him go. He roared as if he had gone crazy and erupted his strength to the extreme. The divine weapon in his hand was also a source-level divine weapon. He injected all the origin energy he controlled into the weapon and blasted it with all his strength. Clang! An earth-shattering explosion erupted. Next, Extermination Heaven Monarch's body shook violently. His body was sent flying like a broken sack. He crashed into a huge boulder and smashed it into pieces. He vomited a large mouthful of blood. One of his arms that was holding the source-level divine weapon was twisted and deformed. His bones were broken inch by inch. However, people like the Lord of Heaven also had astonishing vitality and recovery ability. As long as his soul wasn't destroyed, the injuries on his body could be quickly healed. Crackling sounds could be heard from his arm as his muscles wriggled and quickly recovered. Kill! Lu Ming took advantage of the situation and charged forward, not giving the Lord of Heaven time to recover. Ghost God Dance! The Lord of Heaven shouted. His body flashed and flashed like a ghost. Obviously, he was far inferior to Lu Ming in a head-on confrontation. He wanted to use his movement technique to fight Lu Ming. However, he had miscalculated. He struck out with his palm and used the Desolation style. It formed a continent that covered a large area and enveloped the Lord of Heaven. Boom! On the continent, a powerful force erupted. The earth rumbled and some places kept exploding. The Lord of Heaven was also hit by the powerful force. He couldn't help but slow down. He used all his strength to fight against the continent. He slashed out an earth-shattering attack on the continent. Although the continent shook violently, it didn't break open. Although Lu Ming's combat strength wasn't at its peak, and the Desolation style wasn't at its peak, it wasn't something that the Lord of Heaven could easily defeat. As if struck by lightning, the Lord of Heaven fell to the ground. Lu Ming took the opportunity to stab out with his spear and pierced the Lord of Heaven's heart. The Lord of Heaven was severely injured. He spat out a large mouthful of blood and his aura was a little weak. Quick, come and help me. Come and help me deal with this Lu Ming. The Lord of Heaven roared. This was because he found that when Lu Ming attacked him, no one from the Heavenly Human Tribe came to help. Instead, they fled in panic, including the old Lord of Heaven. Annihilation, you block him first. We'll retreat first. Your sacrifice won't be in vain. We'll report it to the Patriarch and let him avenge you. Let's go, let's split up. The old Heavenly Monarch roared. He didn't stop and quickly flew away. End of chapter. Chapter 4868. This old and strongest Lord of Heaven was wearing a golden armor. He was one of the 9 strongest Lord of Heaven of the Heavenly Human Tribe. He had fought with Lu Ming at the Heaven Destroyer base before. Back then, 4 of the strongest Lord of Heaven cooperated with Yi Qiuxian to kill Lu Ming. In the end, 3 of the strongest Lord of Heaven were killed by Lu Ming, leaving only one of them alive. The old and strongest heaven monarch who was lucky enough to survive was the one in front of him. Therefore, he was traumatized by Lu Ming. Whenever he saw Lu Ming, he would tremble with fear. At this moment, when he saw Lu Ming displaying such terrifying combat power, the scene of the battle at the Heaven Exterminating Army's camp surfaced in his mind. He did not dare to stay and fight. He could not wait to run as far away as possible. The other heavenly human tribe members did not dare to stay and ran away with all their might. Even the strongest Lord of Heaven could not withstand a single blow. If they stayed, wouldn't they be courting death? You damned bastards! Seeing the heavenly human tribe members running away, the Lord of Heaven of Extermination let out a desperate roar. Hee, looks like no one can save you. Lu Ming laughed and stabbed with his war god's spear continuously. Lu Ming, if you want to kill me, you'll have to pay the price. Let's die together. The Lord of Heaven of Extermination roared with a vicious look in his eyes. His body emitted a dazzling light and a terrifying aura spread out. The Lord of Heaven of Extermination was going all out. He was burning his origin energy crazily and preparing to self-destruct at the same time. He's holding back. Looks like he doesn't want to self-destruct at all. Lu Ming's lips curled into a mocking smile. Although the Lord of Heaven of Extermination was burning the origin energy in his origin seed, he did not really want to self-destruct. He was holding back. Obviously, he did not want to die. Boom. Swoosh. Lu Ming used the Chaos form and the Sky-breaking form consecutively to attack the Lord of Heaven of Extermination. After a few moves, the Lord of Heaven of Extermination was hit again and half of his body exploded. This time, the Lord of Heaven of Extermination was too severely injured. His aura was weak and his face was pale. Even his soul was greatly damaged. Even if he went all out and burned his origin energy, he was still no match for Lu Ming. Let's die together, let's die together. Extermination Heavenly Lord roared crazily. The aura that was exuding from his body became even more terrifying. This time, the Lord of Heaven of Extermination finally decided to self-destruct. He knew that he would definitely die and it would be difficult for him to escape. In his desperation, he wanted to drag Lu Ming down with him. Dazzling light burst out of his body and his body began to swell. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly, but he did not stop attacking. He threw out another palm and a piece of land was formed, pressing down on the Lord of Heaven of Extermination. The Lord of Heaven of Extermination was in complete despair. Originally, he did not intend to self-destruct completely. He wanted to see if he could scare Lu Ming. If Lu Ming saw him self-destruct and quickly retreated, then he could stop the self-destruction and take the opportunity to escape. Unfortunately, Lu Ming did not plan to escape at all. He did not stop attacking. The Lord of Heaven of Extermination let out a hysterical roar. His body quickly swelled and then he completely self-destructed with a boom. The power of the self-destruction of the Lord of Heaven of Extermination was very terrifying. The violent power swept in all directions, trying to devour Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming was prepared. When the Lord of Heaven of Extermination was about to self-destruct, he was ready to use the greater teleportation technique. The moment the Lord of Heaven of Extermination self-destructed, Lu Ming had already used the greater teleportation technique. The void rippled and Lu Ming's figure disappeared from the spot. The next moment, Lu Ming appeared on a flat ground thousands of miles away. Phew, I'm lucky. I didn't enter a dangerous place. Lu Ming breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Ming did not dare to use the greater teleportation technique here unless it was necessary, because he could not guarantee where he would be teleported to. This place was full of terrifying formations. If he were to teleport into a formation, he would not even know how he died. Even though most of the formations on the various peaks were destroyed, there were still many remaining formations with amazing power. If he were to teleport into the remaining formations, it would be very dangerous. Lu Ming would not use the greater teleportation technique unless he had no other choice. However, the power of the self-destruction of the Lord of Heaven of Extermination was too terrifying. Even if Lu Ming was injured, it would be very dangerous if he was swept away, because the destructive power was likely to destroy all of Lu Ming's cells in an instant. Fortunately, Lu Ming was lucky and did not teleport to a dangerous place. Swoosh! Lu Ming moved and rushed towards the place where the Lord of Heaven of Extermination self-destructed. The Lord of Heaven of Extermination had a source-grade weapon. Given the quality of a source-grade weapon, it would not be destroyed even if it self-destructed. A source-grade weapon was extremely valuable. Lu Ming did not want to miss out on it. Soon, Lu Ming returned to the place where the battle had taken place. He saw that there was a huge crater. Everything in the crater had been vaporized. Only the weapon lay quietly in the middle. As for the Lord of Heaven of Extermination's storage ring, it had been destroyed in the self-destruction. Lu Ming waved his hand and put away the Lord of Heaven of Extermination's source-grade weapon. Then, his body flashed and he left the place. Such a huge commotion would definitely have alerted others. The people of the Primordial Light Tribe would most likely catch up with him soon. Indeed, not long after Lu Ming left, Yuan Yu arrived with experts. However, they had lost track of Lu Ming long ago. By now, Lu Ming had already appeared in a secluded place and was absorbing the energy of the primordial crystal to recover. As the energy of the primordial crystal was absorbed and refined, Lu Ming recovered quickly. New cells started to divide. In just half a day, Lu Ming's 6 trillion cells that had been destroyed had all recovered. Another half a day later, Lu Ming's power had returned to its peak. After recovering, Lu Ming continued on his way. He headed towards the mountain peak where Xian Yanqing and the others had parted ways. However, when Lu Ming arrived, he did not see Xian Yanqing and the others. Given their strength, they should be fine. Lu Ming pondered this. Among Xian Yanqing and the others, the Bone Demon's combat strength was comparable to the Guangqin Imperial Envoys. Furthermore, they had a joint attack formation. As long as they did not encounter a large group of people from the Primordial Light Tribe, they should be able to self-destruct. Next, Lu Ming passed through 2 more mountain peaks. Boom! Suddenly, Lu Ming heard a violent explosion. Then, a dazzling light shot up into the sky. A huge battle had broken out on a mountain peak not far away. That is, Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. This was because he could sense the aura of perfect heaven's power within the light. Ye Immortal! Lu Ming immediately determined that it was the Ye Immortal. This perfect heaven's power was extremely condensed. It far surpassed Yi Qiuxian's perfect heaven's power. In this paradise, only the Ye Immortal could control such perfect heaven's power. Demonic Qi. It's the Bone Demon. Then, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He could sense the Bone Demon's demonic qi within the light. Chapter 4869. Lu Ming could sense the demonic aura of Bone Demon. Demonic aura and perfect power of heaven were constantly clashing against each other. It was obvious that Bone Demon and Ye Immortal were fighting. If Bone Demon was there, Xian Yanqing and the others were most likely there as well. Lu Ming transformed into a streak of light and rushed toward the battlefield. Halfway up the mountain where Lu Ming was heading, an intense battle was taking place. Bone Demon and Ye Immortal were engaged in an intense battle. Bone Demon's defense was invincible and his body was indestructible. He ignored his defense and attacked with all his might. However, Ye Immortal wasn't weak either. Ye Immortal was covered in a battle armor. This battle armor was a top-grade source-grade divine weapon armor and its defense was astonishing. At the same time, Ye Immortal was also wielding a top-grade offensive source-grade divine weapon. It could be said that he had no weakness and was locked in battle with Bone Demon. In fact, Bone Demon was slightly at a disadvantage. Clearly, Ye Immortal had also had a fortuitous encounter during this period. Although his cultivation was still at 9th tier Divine Master Realm, his strength had increased. His blood was boiling like a primordial beast. His perfect power of heaven had also become more condensed and integrated with his physical body. His overall combat strength was stronger than before. Coupled with a set of top-grade source-grade divine weapon armor, his overall combat strength had already surpassed Guangqin emissaries like Yuan Yu. It was also because of Bone Demon's powerful defense that he was able to fight Ye Immortal. If it were any other expert of the same level, they would be even more defeated. On the other side, there was also a huge battle. Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, Dandan, Bubbles, Ling Yue, Tang Jun, Wanxin, and Qiuqiu were gathered together. They were surrounded by a formation that protected them. This formation was set up by Dandan by combining the remnants of the formation here. Its defensive power was extremely strong. They relied on this formation to resist the attacks of the heavenly human tribe. This was because the heavenly human tribe's offensive power was too strong. They actually had a joint attack formation. A 9-man array formation. Indeed, the Celestial Clan's 9 Lord of Heaven level individuals laid down a 9-person joint attack formation. Its power was extremely terrifying. Dandan and the others had set up a combined spell formation, but they were no match for the combined spell formation of the Heavenly Human Tribe. The Heavenly Human Tribe's 9-man joint attack formation was something that Yi Immortal and the others had obtained from the Purple Heaven Grotto Heaven. It was an ancient joint attack formation that was extremely powerful. Moreover, the Celestial Race's formation was formed by 9 Lord Heaven, all of them peak God Lords. All 9 of them had the same cultivation, so they were able to perfectly execute the combined formation. Dandan and the others' joint attack formation was no match for their opponents. It wasn't that their joint attack formation was inferior, but that they only had 8 people, 1 less than their opponents. Furthermore, the 8 of them had different cultivation bases. Among them, Qiuqiu was a peak divine master. Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, was a 9th-level divine master. Ling Yue, Dandan, Bubbles, Wanxin, and Tang Jun were all 8th-level divine masters. In order to fully unleash the combined formation's power, it was best if the people who set up the formation had the same cultivation base. If their cultivation bases were uneven, it would be very difficult for the formation to reach its peak. This was why Dandan and the others had been unable to match the combined formation of the Heavenly Human Tribe. Most importantly, the Heavenly Human Tribe's 9-man joint attack formation didn't have just 1, but 2. Thus, Dandan and the others were quickly defeated. At the crucial moment, Dandan combined the remnants of the formation here and used it to temporarily block the Heavenly Human Tribe's attack. However, this was only something Dandan had set up temporarily with the remnants of the formation here. Its power was limited, and it couldn't hold on for too long. At this moment, the formation was constantly trembling, as if it would collapse at any moment. Today I'll kill all of you. When I bring your heads to Lu Ming, I wonder what kind of expression Lu Ming will have. In the 9-man joint attack formation of the Heavenly Human Tribe, a Lord of Heaven sneered. That's right. Lu Ming killed Annihilation, so we'll use the people Lu Ming cares about the most to pay tribute to him. We'll let Lu Ming know what regret is. The Lord of Heaven of 100 Battles also spoke coldly. He stood to the side and didn't make a move. Clearly, Yi Immortal and the others already knew that the Lord of Heaven of Annihilation had been killed by Lu Ming. When Lu Ming killed the Lord of Heaven of Annihilation, the people who had fled in all directions had already reunited with Yi Immortal and the others. Yi Immortal's gaze was also very cold. He had just arrived when he heard that the Lord of Heaven of Annihilation had been killed by Lu Ming. This made his desire to kill Lu Ming extremely strong. Not long after, they encountered Xian Yanqing and the others. He naturally wouldn't let them go. Annihilation deserved to die. Let me tell you, if Lu Ming can kill Annihilation, he can also kill you. You'll die at his hands sooner or later. Dandan hooted from within the formation. Sword of the Heavenly Human, Yang Annihilation. Berserk Demon Divine Blade. Yi Wuxia and Guimo both unleashed their Genesis techniques. Their Genesis techniques continuously clashed in the air, instantly clashing countless times. Then, both figures retreated at the same time. A corpse from the previous era should have been buried forever in the ruins. Now I'll send you to sleep. Yi Immortal's cold voice rang out. Then, the space between his brows glowed and an invisible ripple rushed out towards Guimo. Guimo immediately retreated as if he had been struck by lightning. The demonic chi on his body trembled. His soul had suffered a terrifying attack. Your weakness is indeed your soul. Then die. Yi Immortal's eyes lit up. The light between his brows became even more dazzling as he continued to launch his soul attack. Yi Immortal was a reincarnated person. His soul was shockingly powerful, while Guimo had a weakness. His soul was in his eye sockets and had no defense. Although Gu Mo's soul wasn't weak, it was still very easy for him to be attacked without any defense. Kill! Bone Devil roared, wanting to take the initiative to attack. But as he charged out, he was struck by Yi Wuchen's soul attack. His body shook violently and he retreated. The devil chi on his body faded, and his aura weakened. BZZ BZZ. Yi Immortal launched a few more soul attacks. Gu Mo's aura weakened even further. His soul was like a candle in the wind that could be extinguished at any time. Gu Mo, quickly enter the array. Don't fight him head-on. Xian Yanqing shouted. It was obvious that Gu Mo wouldn't be able to hold on for long if this continued. His soul would be completely destroyed. When that happened, no matter how tough his bones were, it would be useless. Gu Mo turned around and charged towards Xian Yanqing and the others. You won't be able to escape. Kill. Yi Immortal shouted coldly as he quickly chased after Gu Mo. At the same time, he used his Genesis technique, Destruction of the Sun. A sun appeared and shone brightly. Every ray of light was a ray of sword chi that enveloped Gu Mo. Clang clang clang. Gu Mo's body was hit by a series of attacks. His body was immediately stopped in its tracks. Chapter 4870. The formation Dandan and the others were in let out a cracking sound. The formation could no longer withstand the attacks and was about to collapse. Gu Mo, Dandan and the others were now in grave danger. Activate the two formations together and defeat them. Yi Immortal ordered. At the same time, he increased the intensity of his attacks on Gu Mo. He used Genesis techniques to block Gu Mo's attacks and then used spirit attacks to attack him. As Yi Immortal's voice faded, 9 more heavenly human race experts flashed and set up a formation. These 9 members of the heavenly human tribe were all heavenly lords. They were all at the peak of the divine master realm, and each of them had a heart protection mirror on their chests. These heart-protecting mirrors were the carriers of their formations. Dense runes appeared on the surface of the 9 heart protection mirrors. The runes intertwined and connected into a single entity before transforming into a warrior clad in golden armor. The golden warrior wielded a golden battle sword and slashed at the formation where Qiuqiu and the others were in. The combined power of the two formations was too strong. Dandan and the others' formation couldn't withstand it at all. It collapsed after a few moves. Then, the 2 golden warriors charged at Dandan, Xian Yanqing and the others. The terrifying power made everyone's expression change drastically and their hearts turn cold. Qiuqiu, Xian Yanqing, and Qiuqiu Moon tried their best to resist, but they were too weak compared to the combined attack of the 9 heavenly human race experts. With just one move, they were sent flying. They coughed up large mouthfuls of blood and were severely injured. It's over. I haven't reached the peak of the universe yet. I don't want to die. Dandan screamed. Swish. At this moment, a spear light pierced through the void and stabbed at one of the golden warriors at an astonishing speed. The spear light was so fast that the golden warrior couldn't defend himself in time. Boom! The spear light pierced the golden warrior's head. However, the golden warrior's defense was also very shocking. He managed to block the spear light, but his body was sent flying. He crashed into a mountain rock and shattered a large piece of it. Swish! A figure appeared in the void. This figure was naturally Lu Ming. When he arrived, he saw that Xian Yanqing, Autumn Moon, and the others were injured. In a fit of rage, he swung his war god's spear and sent a golden warrior flying. Following that, Lu Ming swung his war god's spear horizontally, striking another golden warrior. With a loud boom, the golden warrior was sent flying and crashed into a mountain rock. What a powerful joint attack formation! Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly. This was also a 9-man joint attack array formation. However, Lu Ming felt that the 9-man joint attack array formation of the heavenly human tribe was actually stronger than the one of the primordial light tribe. However, this wasn't hard to understand. The primordial light tribe's combined attack array formation had probably been refined by them, while the heavenly human tribe's combined attack array formation had probably been obtained from the purple heaven hollow. It was obviously more advanced and mysterious. Even joint attack arrays with the same number of people could be divided into different levels of strength. When Lu Ming had faced the 9-man joint attack array of the primordial light tribe, he had been able to break the opponent's array formation with a single blow. However, he hadn't been able to break the heavenly human tribe's combined attack array formation. Lu Ming. When they saw Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Dandan, and the others, they were all overjoyed. Ah, Lu Ming, you finally made it. Let's *CK them up. Dandan shouted. Little Qing, Autumn Moon Ye, are you guys all right? Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing and the others with concern. We're fine. Lu Ming, hurry up and save Senior Bone Devil. He can't hold on for much longer. Xian Yanqing hurriedly sent a message to Lu Ming. At that moment, Lu Ming's gaze was fixed on Yi Immortal. His eyes were filled with a strong desire to fight and killing intent. Swoosh! Lu Ming turned into a stream of light and charged towards Yi Immortal, thrusting out his battle god spear. He immediately used the sky splitter form. Given Lu Ming's current strength, Yi Immortal's face turned grave and his heart thumped wildly in his chest. He couldn't be bothered to continue attacking Bone Devil. Instead, he brandished his sword and unleashed a Genesis art. Boom! Their attacks collided, producing a deafening explosion. Violent shockwaves swept out in all directions. But Lu Ming didn't stop attacking after his first attack. He unleashed the primordial desolation form again. A continent formed and pressed down on Yi Immortal. Sword of the heavenly human, destruction of the sun. Yi Immortal unleashed another powerful Genesis art. Dazzling rays of light enveloped the entire area. Endless sword chi swept across the sky, attacking indiscriminately. In the end, both the primordial desolation form and Lu Ming were blocked. However, Yi Immortal's expression was extremely grave and ugly. After several exchanges, Yi Immortal realized that he was inferior to Lu Ming in terms of offensive power. How was this possible? Yi Immortal had lived for countless years, but he had rarely encountered such a situation. Lu Ming was only an 8th-layer divine master. Moreover, he didn't know any Genesis arts, but his battle prowess had already reached such a level. It was simply unbelievable. This was only possible when one's foundation and talent had reached an unimaginable level. It would have made sense in the primordial desolation continent of the previous era. After all, there were simply too many monsters back then. He had seen even more monstrous geniuses with even more shocking talents. But in this era, it was simply too unbelievable. Yi Immortal is only SOSO. Lu Ming's eyes were bright and brimming with confidence. Back in the Halo world, Lu Ming and Yi Immortal had fought for the human king body, but they had still been no match for Yi Immortal. But now, Lu Ming was able to fight Yi Immortal even though he was only 1 layer lower than him. This greatly boosted Lu Ming's confidence. Swish, 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 Lu Ming brandished his war god spear. Spear lights crisscrossed as they repeatedly stabbed at Yi Immortal. The two engaged in an intense exchange of blows. On the other side, the heavenly human race's 2 9-man joint attack formations charged towards Xian Yanqing and the others. However, Guimo had already recovered. Demonic chi surged and blocked the 2 golden warriors. Although Gumo's spirit had been damaged during his battle with Yi Immortal, he was still an existence that surpassed the strongest Lord of Heaven. His battle prowess was still very strong. Even though he wasn't at his peak, he had no problem blocking the attacks of the 2 golden warriors with his strong defensive capabilities. The joint attack formation didn't have any soul attacks. The strength of the souls of the other heavenly human race members was far inferior to Yi Immortal's. Even if they had soul attacks, they wouldn't have much of an impact on Guimo. This gave Xian Yanqing, Qiu Moon, and the others a chance to catch their breaths. They took out divine pills and swallowed them to recover quickly. Not far away, Lord of Heaven of 100 Battles and the others' eyes lit up. They wanted to attack Xian Yanqing and the others. However, Dandan and the others saw through them immediately. Dandan waved his hands and countless runes flew out. They combined with the damaged formations on the scene and set up another defensive formation. Although this formation was only set up temporarily, it was still very powerful when combined with the damaged formations on the scene. It wouldn't be a problem to block a few of the strongest Lord of Heaven for a while.